Chapter 1. Either Queen Sea or Dragon Mother. The Crabclaw Peninsula had its own legendary hero named Clarence Crab, the grandson of Aegon the Conqueror and a member of the Kingsguard during the reign of Jaehaerys I. His name was Clement Crab. During the Battle of the Trident in the Usurpers' War, the major families on the Crabclaw Peninsula fought with Prince Rhaegar to the end. The people of the Crabclaw Peninsula proudly claimed to be model subjects of House Dragon. Robert Baratheon was victorious, and the already underpopulated Kleb family suffered heavy casualties, leaving only one male, Greene Kleb, who was still in his mother's womb at the time. Qingyu City is a curved military fortress built on the mountain. There are some small houses scattered around the fortress. Lord's Hall of Whispering City. Greene Kleb, the perfectly integrated time traveler, sat upright behind a long table. A man and a woman stood on his left and right. The man, about 40 years old, was bald and fat, wearing a blue round-collar robe. The woman, in her 30s, had long curly brown hair and wore a long blue dress with a low-slit neckline. They were Herschel, the great butler, and Sulana, the life butler. At this time, an old farmer knelt respectfully in the center of the hall, his voice full of careful respect. "Yes, Lord, I confirm. During the day, I go out to farm at dawn, and my neighbor Mati always comes to my house, and my women at home, various breathing exercises, many times." After finally listening to the old farmer's intermittent statement, Greene Kleb's expression did not change much, except for the corners of his mouth slightly pursed. The Lord's Hall was silent for a moment. Seeing that his young master had no intention of speaking, the great butler Herschel coughed lightly and said, "Old Pierre, I hear you tell me that you have directly broken through their behavior. Didn't you take any lessons?" The old farmer Pierre was silent for a while and replied, "I am very angry, but I am no longer young. Mati is younger and stronger than me. I can't beat him." "Where is your wife?" "I can't beat her either." "Oh, the women of Crabclaw Peninsula are indeed quite tough. According to the folk customs here, it is estimated that the old farmer will soon have a famous name, such as Weak Old Pierre. To become a qualified lord, it is obligatory to protect the weak. Only when the weak can be protected can the soil of loyalty be formed. Greene Kleb understands that from another perspective, everyone is actually a cub who needs to be protected, well, including himself. The voice of the 15-year-old young Lord Greene Kleb was still a little green. "Old Pierre, your lord has listened to your statement, and I will arrange for 2 swordsmen to accompany you." After speaking, Greene Kleb's gray eyes turned to a tall, middle-aged man wearing iron armor, standing on the side of the hall, and continued, "Sir Pell, you can arrange 2 smarter soldiers. If there is no problem, just arrest him directly." Greene Kleb asked the butler, "Herschel, in my territory, where is the lack of people now? Dangerous?" The great steward, Herschel, seemed to have already prepared the answer. "There will always be a need for laborers who can take on heavy work in the territory, my lord. But I suggest that you give him a sword. The mountain savages have started to stir up trouble again. You need more warriors. You are kind and always give your subjects a chance." "Well, you are young and strong, right? You like to steal people, right? You are energetic, so I will give you a sword and go fight the savages. If you're lucky enough to survive, it will all depend on the gift of the benevolent Lord. Be grateful, hold the sword in your hand, and continue next time." Greene Kleb nodded slightly and waved his right hand lightly. Old Farmer Pierre's eyes were red, and he bowed deeply to his lord. He bent down, but felt that his waist was straightened, and his heart was filled with gratitude. Greene Kleb felt a surge of determination. He was resolved to excel in his farm work for his lord, ensuring a bountiful harvest. This year he was confident they would yield more wheat than the previous year. He believed the lord appeared thin because he hadn't eaten enough. With improved farmland and a better harvest, the lord would be able to eat more and gain weight. "Next," he called out, "My lord, my farm tools are broken. Master Lord, my son's stomach has been hurting for several days. Please." "Lord, that was my prey. The mountain savages robbed me." "My compassionate lord, mountain savages always appear near our village, and the villagers are very worried. Yes, usually 5 or 6 people go out together." The morning's petition session with the citizens finally concluded. Greene Kleb no longer had to maintain his majestic sitting posture. He stretched and stood up from the tall wooden chair, feeling relieved. Maintaining that noble posture felt like being trapped in a painting. "Miss Sulana, bring a basin of hot water to the study and bring lunch there. Also, ask Bachelor Al to prepare the raven and arrange it as soon as I finish writing the letter." In the castle study, Greene Kleb finished his lunch, tidied up, and picked up his quill. Today he was writing his third letter, this one addressed to the current queen, Cersei Lannister. After the Reaver War, he was the only male left in the direct line of the Kleb family. His mother had been pregnant at the time, and the chivalrous Eddard Stark had persuaded the new king, Robert Baratheon, to pardon them. Thanks to this, the Kleb family had narrowly escaped extinction. However, after the Reaver War, Lord Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, had used various means to suppress the former loyal families of the Targaryens, including the Kleb family, for 10 long years. Next year, the events of A Song of Ice and Fire would begin, and the Game of Thrones was about to unfold. Greene Kleb had much to prepare for. To join this stage, he needed to first ease relations with the Red Keep. Jon Arryn was finally growing old, his energy waning, and according to the plot, his time was running out. The Kleb family could finally breathe a little easier. They could not follow the crowd or be satisfied with the status quo. The Kleb family, often ridiculed as semi-savages, had previously lacked understanding or direction. But now, Greene Kleb was here to change that. Greene Kleb refocused his thoughts and prepared to write a letter filled with flattery. Her Royal Highness the Queen, who is both courageous and beautiful. Out of admiration, I send you my most sincere greetings, and I take the liberty of disturbing you. The war has been over for 15 years. At that time, I was still in my mother's womb, quietly enjoying a warmth I cannot remember. Ever since I was a child, I have always been grateful to the kingdom for its kindness in allowing the Kleb family to continue. I am now 15 years old and can wield a sword and draw a bow. We dare not slack off, nor forget the motto of our clan, united will makes the city strong. The older I get, the deeper my understanding becomes. The core of the Kleb family's motto is loyalty. The dragon has been gone for 15 years. Although the Kleb family still exists, it has lost its former glory. The Kleb family, because of their loyalty, knew the end of the road, but still did not look back. Because of their former loyalty, the Kleb family has lost trust in the new world. Without trust, the loyalty of the Kleb family has nowhere to rest. As noble as you are, could you be willing to give the Kleb family a chance? I heard that your highness is about to go hunting in the forest, and the Kleb family hopes to bring glory to you. Your loyal servant, Greene Kleb. Greene Kleb stopped writing and reviewed the letter. Satisfied, he prepared to send it, hoping it would pave the way for his family's resurgence. The first step was either the Queen or the Dragon Mother. Chapter 2. Intellectual Loyalty. While the rugged King Robert continues to suppress Queen Cersei, Greene Kleb seeks a ladder to elevate his status. Meeting directly with the arrogant Cersei Lannister is risky, as she is likely to look down on the Kleb family, often dismissed as half-barbarians. However, Senya is merely a prelude. The key lies in seizing the opportunity to demonstrate ability and strength. The land on the Crabclaw Peninsula is mostly barren, composed of swamps, woods, and valleys. Each dark valley has its own lord, and these lords and their subjects are deeply distrustful of outsiders. The people of the Crabclaw Peninsula are largely descendants of the First Men. When the Andals attempted to conquer the peninsula, they faced resistance at every turn. When not fighting external enemies, the residents engage in internal conflicts, with family blood feuds as deep and dark as the swamps in the mountains. Occasionally, a hero brings temporary peace to the peninsula, such as Clarence Crab, the legendary hero of House Crab. But once such heroes die, the land reverts to its chaotic state. During the War of Conquest, Aegon sent his sister, Visenya Targaryen, to the Crabclaw Peninsula to recruit them as direct vassals. Since then, the peninsula has remained loyal to House Targaryen. Greene Kleb handed a written letter to Butler Herschel. After a moment of silence, Greene Kleb's slender fingers rubbed his dark, medium-length, slightly curly hair. Whispering City lies about 100 miles east, and to the north there is a large area of land more suitable for farming compared to the Crabclaw Peninsula. This land once belonged to the sphere of influence of Kleb's ancestral fort, Whispering Castle. According to Chief Steward Herschel, the former Kleb family provided thousands of elite soldiers from that land, maintaining their absolute rule over the surrounding areas. After the Reaver War, under internal and external pressure, Greene Kleb's mother moved her remaining retainers to a relatively safe military fortress and renamed it Whispering City. More than 10 years have passed, and the ancestral land of Whispering Castle lies in ruins, with the Kleb family having long lost its right to rule that land. "Serana, my mother, it must not have been easy back then," Greene Kleb mused. "My little master, when I think about it now, I am still terrified. In the beginning, Madame had to sleep with 2 swords on her pillow. The long sword was for the mountain savages who might attack at any time, and the short sword was kept for herself," Serana replied. Greene Kleb smiled softly. She was indeed powerful. Serana, usually maintaining a cold demeanor, also smiled. "Madame passed away peacefully. My master, you are Madame's greatest pride." After chatting with his life steward Serana for a while, Greene Kleb pondered her last cryptic words after she left. The harvest season on the farm is approaching, and the savage lords of the nearby mountains are eyeing the Crab family, which has just lost Mrs. Crab. Everyone is poor, but in comparison, the Kleb family farm has always stood out as an excellent opportunity. At this time, the owner of Kleb's territory is just a young boy who has been sheltered under his mother's wings for a long time. The mountain savages have united for a rare time. If they don't fight him now, when will they? Serana was not worried about the war in Kleb's territory. The Kleb family has 2 retainer knights who have been canonized for generations, Per Peary and Mason Baker. Since the birth of the Kleb family, it took hundreds of years to cultivate the most reliable retainers in the world. Under the dangerous environment of the Crab-Claw Peninsula, Kleb has more than 200 standing soldiers, each of whom has experienced numerous battles. 20 of them wear full-body plate armor, making them formidable against the unarmored mountain savages. Sulana had participated in many battles alongside Greene's mother. He was agile and reputed to have few equals with a short sword. What truly were Ead Sulana was that Greene, young and energetic, was leading an army alone for the first time. In a moment of enthusiasm, he might charge forward recklessly and expose himself to danger. The Kleb family had only one heir left. If something happened to Greene, everything under the Kleb flag would collapse quickly, and the family would become history. Greene wanted to reassure Sulana that he was disciplined and wouldn't act impulsively. For the sake of the Lord's majesty, courage should be demonstrated at all times, but it couldn't be expressed in words. After the time travel fusion was completed, Greene felt his physical fitness improving significantly every time he slept and woke up. His sword was eager for action. Despite his mental maturity, Greene kept reminding himself that this was just one of the top 10 hallucinations caused by physical enhancement. He was the Lord and had soldiers to command, so he needed to stay composed and avoid unnecessary risks. Aside from a cousin who was 3 years older and had been married for 4 years, Greene was the only remaining member of the Kleb family. This was perilous for a noble family with a long lineage. The Kribo territory was not peaceful, and the Lord often led his men into various battles. With Mrs. Crab no longer around, Greene Kleb, as the Lord of the Crab-Claw Peninsula, would live like his ancestors, fighting repeatedly. Being a lord in the Crab-Claw Peninsula was a high-risk profession. If the last Kleb had an accident, anyone with a bit of foresight would feel a sense of crisis and unease. The Kleb family held a hereditary baronet title. Given the family's precarious position in the kingdom, Greene's marriage was indeed problematic, whether aiming high or low. Normally, a 15-year-old noble like Greene would at least have a fiancée. Sulana understood that a lord's marriage was not a simple love affair. The causes and consequences of the Caesar's War always reminded nobles not to be carried away by love. Therefore, Sulana felt that even if Greene had an illegitimate child, it was necessary to ensure an heir, regardless of noble traditions and laws. This was not to curse Greene, but to reassure the people in the territory. With this, the lord's marriage could proceed smoothly. Sulana had a son and a daughter. His eldest son, already married at 16, was studying with the great steward Herschel. His daughter Kalea was 13 and had her menarche a month ago. She was healthy, good-looking, and most importantly, reliable. Sulana had watched Greene grow up and knew he was not a mean or unkind person. Although having an illegitimate child was not honorable, it was a meritorious act for the Krybo territory at this time. The child couldn't inherit the Kleb surname and would use the illegitimate surname Waishwai, but would still carry Kleb's blood. If a child with Kleb blood was born now, they would at least receive a farm and have enough food and clothing for life. She would live better than most women, and a lifetime would be sufficient. Everyone would be fine. Since he had to adapt to local customs, Greene was grateful to have integrated the memories of his original body. With these memories, Greene's usual words and actions were not too out of the ordinary and gradually changed naturally. As a former loyal minister of the dragon family, he had to avoid leaving any conspicuous traces. Under the Seven Gods religion, those who were too outrageous could easily be labeled as heretics. Believers of the Seven Gods were everywhere in Westeros. 13 years old, Greene leaned back in his chair and raised his eyes. His eyes stared at the ceiling for a long time, the conflict of ideas in his heart too great to ignore. He decided it was best to discuss it further. After several days of quiet observation, Greene discovered that his direct citizens totaled about 2,000 people. Their primary means of production were farming and hunting. Approximately 1,000 people were gathered near Qingyu City, with the rest distributed across 10 villages of varying sizes. One of He's villages, located south of Qingyu City near the sea, had a population of about 200 people who made a living by fishing. It was simply called Fishing Village, a name Greene felt needed improvement. At the very least, the word village should be changed to port. After being busy for a while, Greene knew he had to visit the village in person, conduct on-site inspections, and then plan accordingly. The Lord was very poor and in dire need of golden dragons. The retainer knight, Mason Baker, had been out for 3 days following Greene's orders to inspect and count all the blacksmiths, carpenters, and other craftsmen in the territory. Meanwhile, the butler, Herschel, had already started arranging for people to tidy up the vacant rooms. The plan was to concentrate all the forces in the territory, streamline production, divide labor, and cooperate to train technicians in preparation for establishing a cold weapons factory. There were many excellent yew forests in Kleb's territory, which Greene saw as an advantage. Training all the people as longbowmen as soon as possible was a priority. Elite longbowmen required not just archery skills, but also strong discipline. Greene understood that these would take time to develop. The first thing Greene had to do was to maximize the overall mobilization according to the current strength of the territory. He needed to gather all the forces to eliminate the nearby mountain savages, thereby creating a relatively stable environment for development. The main reason for this urgency was his dire financial situation. Greene even considered temporarily changing the family motto to "Strength is better than hard work." He planned to revert it back once they had enough money. Chapter 3. Mermaid Port. On Greene Klay's table lay 3 coins, a gold dragon, a silver deer, and a bronze star. In this world, 1 gold dragon equaled 10 silver deer, and 1 silver deer equaled 100 bronze stars. Greene roughly converted this currency to his previous life's values. A gold dragon was about 1,000 yuan, a silver deer about 100 yuan, and a bronze star about 1 yuan. The currency system, value, and conversion are set to facilitate writing. For easier understanding, a set of full-plate armor starts at 10 gold dragons, a set of chainmail at 3 gold dragons, a fine warhorse at 16 gold dragons, and unsullied at 100 gold dragons, excluding shipping charges. A meal with meat and a glass of beer costs 20 to 30 bronze stars, and a farmer's annual income is about 1 gold dragon. The total value of the coins currently in Kleiber's vault was over 2,000 gold dragons, excluding the goods in the Lord's warehouse. However, the foreign debt stood at 5,000 gold dragons, with 500 gold dragons paid in interest last year. After the Reaver War, under the instruction of Hand of the King John Arryn, the nobles and merchants of the valley forcibly issued loans to help the noble lords of the Crabclaw Peninsula get through the difficulties. This was also one of the post-war peace treaties for the Crabclaw Peninsula. You will never see a golden dragon. The nobles and merchants of the valley use the territory that originally belonged to you as the principle of the loan. It's just that hard. You can refuse. It just so happens that Baratheon's armor has not yet been put into storage, and Robert has not had enough of fighting yet. The price of the Crabo territory is 5,000 gold dragons, and the annual interest paid by the Crabo family has accumulated to 7,500 gold dragons. According to the contract, 2,500 gold dragons will be paid for another 5 years, and the principal of 5,000 gold dragons will be added in the last year. This is the Red Castle's suppression method, stemming from the vigilance of the Crabclaw Peninsula nobles. The interest rate for post-war construction was nominally good, and the share was just right. It could survive without being forced to take risks, and it could restrict development. The weak and peaceful lord of Crabclaw Peninsula is a good lord. The entire Crabo territory had a population of more than 2,000 people. Due to the need to guard against the year-round harassment of the territory by mountain barbarians, there were always 200 clan soldiers, equivalent to full-time soldiers. Under normal circumstances, this was actually the limit. Because of frequent wars, the territory's population ratio was more male than female. The women here had strong bones. Most women needed to farm and hunt like men. There were many spearwives. As long as the weapons were in place, the spearwives could also be recruited to fight for money and men. Theoretically, if the craftsmen, old and weak, were left behind, and all the troops were mobilized, the maximum number of troops could reach 1,500. Facing the savage lords in the surrounding valleys, the small ones only numbered a few dozen, and the large ones only had a few hundred people. They were still scattered, but they could be pushed aside. Why else farm? As I said just now, the motto of the Kleb family has been temporarily changed to "Strength is better than hard work." First of all, we should deal with the mountain savage tribes who gathered together to rob because Greene, the successor, was young. Start with this battle. The next day, the clouds were heavy. The arc-shaped Whispering Castle was built in a crude manner and not elegant enough, but it was big enough to accommodate all the more than 1,000 surrounding residents during the war. Greene stood on the castle wall more than 20 meters high and looked down. The butler Herschel and Knight Pell stood behind Greene. The war had lasted for 7 years after King Robert's rebellion. Greene gazed southward, contemplating the future of Whispering City. The terrain there was gentle, ideal for expansion. He envisioned a city of 10,000 people, starting with the construction of an inner city, followed by an outer ring. Chuckling to himself, he decided against calling it the First Ring Road. "Herschel, take note," he instructed. "The fishing village will be renamed Mermaid Port from now on," Greene declared. Herschel, the diligent butler, recorded every word. "The upper half of the mermaid is a girl, and the lower half is a fishtail. The 7 gods will be amazed by the beauty of the mermaid," Greene continued. Herschel hesitated, then asked, "Master, isn't this description a bit provocative? Some monks might not take kindly to it." Greene, an atheist, had initially wanted to say that the 7 gods would be captivated by the sight of him. He reconsidered his words. "Thank you for your advice, Herschel," he said, pausing thoughtfully. "Find some reliable bards, convey the essence of what I've said, and let them craft the rest. They are the professionals." Herschel continued to jot down notes. "Mermaids love to sing heart-touching songs passed down through generations. They are extremely shy and only come out of the sea to sing late at night when no one is around. Their beautiful voices sound like the essence of nature." Greene had wanted to say that their voices were kissed by the 7 gods, but decided against it. Mermaids are carefree, kind, and optimistic. They only shed tears when they are extremely sad and heartbroken. These tears turn into the most crystal-clear pearls in the world. He paused, letting the imagery sink in. A mermaid can only fall in love once in her life. When she truly loves someone, she makes a vow of love. "The vow of love, make sure to record this," Greene instructed. "I am willing to be so-and-so's lover, to love what he loves, to think what he thinks, to bear pain for him, and to go through suffering. Whether he is poor or rich, humble or noble, in troubled times, or ignored by the gods, I will live for him, die for him, and never leave him, forever. Herschel and Knight Pell's lips moved in unison, their expressions rich with emotion. Greene felt they were genuinely moved. Was the fishing village actually a hidden legendary place? Seeing their reactions, Greene decided to change his original plan. Only your own secrets are real secrets, he thought. Let's all be part of this legend. Remember, mermaids are the shyest beings in the world. It's normal not to find them. Come to Mermaid Port and be enchanted by the mermaids, Greene said, adding a touch of mystery. This is a secret passed down orally among the Kleb chiefs. I trust you both the most, he confided. Herschel and Pell stood tall, feeling honored. First, we need to mobilize all the villagers to build a simple dock nearby. The location can be a bit farther, but it must accommodate large ships, Greene instructed. Next, we need to build a lighthouse to guide nearby ships. We also need pubs, hotels, and shops. Initially, the requirements are not high, but the functions must be complete. We must earn every bronze star. Strong villagers must be armed, and the elderly and weak can be assigned suitable positions in the stores. We must ensure the safety of our friendly customers. Mermaid Harbor must become increasingly beautiful and comfortable. We must not disappoint the guests who come here for its reputation. Herschel seemed to understand. My lord, the longer the legend of the mermaid lasts and the wider it spreads, the more people will be attracted to Mermaid Port. Our goods can be sold directly to buyers, eliminating the need for middlemen. Greene nodded, satisfied with the plan. Exactly. Let's make Mermaid Port a place of wonder and prosperity. Used by mobile traders. Lower prices, not just leather. Mermaid Harbor will become a trading post. No wonder you are willing to spread the legend of mermaids. Yes, rules are rigid. For the development of the territory, as your lord, necessary sacrifices are inevitable. It's up to you to keep it secret and let it spread naturally. After speaking, Greene turned his back, standing with his hands behind him, and sighed. The hem of his robe fluttered in the wind. Herschel bowed deeply with great solemnity. Pell, clad in plate armor, gripped the hilt of his sword so tightly that the veins on the back of his hand bulged. He too leaned down with Herschel, showing his respect. Chapter 4. Mother and daughter have a heart-to-heart talk. Knight Pell's voice was filled with pride. My lord, I command 100 men and use my fingers like an arm. Greene couldn't help but feel a twinge of disdain. You're just a centurion, he thought. In his previous life, he had commanded hundreds of thousands in battle. This live-action version of Age of Empires was a far cry from those grandiose days. The Crabclaw Peninsula, always in chaos, was vast and sparsely populated. By the scale of war, it was indeed the countryside. The battles here were mere skirmishes, akin to group fights among those who had never witnessed a true war. Yet Pell, who had spent half his life fighting and had the ability to command, was indeed a formidable figure in this region. It was something to be proud of, and Greene understood that. He showed a satisfied smile and continued walking with Knight Pell. In Whispering Castle, after a period of strict management, the place had become clean, and all kinds of peculiar smells had dissipated. These changes made Greene's steps lighter. He decided to arrange for additional dishes in the kitchen that evening as a form of occasional encouragement. At a martial arts training ground in Qingyu City, more than 20 tall and strong warriors had gathered. These were the most elite fighters of the Kleb family, capable of battling in full plate armor. The mountain savages called them Tin Men. Upon seeing Greene and Pell approach, everyone stopped and saluted. Greene picked up a wooden training sword from the shelf, shook it, and said, "Who will practice with me?" The group fell silent, each looking at the other. Greene pointed at a random person. You, yes, you. A reserved man stepped forward, saying seriously, "Lord, my name is Foley. I might get hurt." Greene chuckled. "If you hurt me, I'll add a roast leg of lamb to your lunch." "Fat, oily," Foley muttered, swallowing and nodding. The news that the young lord was competing in the martial arts field spread throughout the castle at an incredible speed, and everyone gathered to watch. When Greene took off his robe and handed it to an attendant, a large crowd had already assembled. "Oh, oh, oh! Ho, ho, ho!" The crowd cheered. Foley's morale was high, spurred by the promise of roasted leg of lamb and the crowd's excitement. He moved quickly, but held back his full strength. He had a bit of wisdom. He He didn't want to truly hurt the Lord and risk losing the promised meal. He hoped the young and energetic Lord would retreat gracefully, saving face for both of them. As Foley's sword came slashing down, Greene raised his own sword with one hand, easily blocking the attack and moving forward. Foley, caught off guard by the sudden force, instinctively resisted, but still took 3 steps back. "My warrior, be serious and let me see your true strength," Greene commanded. "Oh, ho, ho." "Foley, did the proprietress of Old Ken's Tavern keep you overnight last night? She's helpless now." "What nonsense are you talking about? Die for me," Foley retorted, his face darkening with embarrassment. The strong man, Foley's face turned a deep red. Damn it, these bastards were talking nonsense. The Lord was truly powerful. What did they know? Foley stood up, loosening his grip on the sword hilt slightly before tightening it again, entering the fighting state he had trained for in countless battles. Bang! Boom! Dust rose and dispersed, and Foley lay on his back, a look of despair on his face. He had truly tried his best. Silence fell over the crowd, then cheers erupted. Greene maintained a reserved smile and waved gently to the crowd, acknowledging the enthusiasm of the people he led. In Whispering City, the previously depressed atmosphere had lifted. The gloom that had lingered since the death of Greene's mother seemed to have been swept away in an instant. No more shadows clouded his demeanor. Pell Knight was taken aback by Greene's display of strength. Pell's swordsmanship was seasoned enough to recognize that Greene hadn't even exerted his full effort when he easily defeated Foley. Although Foley's swordsmanship wasn't on par with Pell's, his physical strength was formidable. If Pell had faced Foley, he would have had to be cautious just to avoid defeat. The Lord had grown up, becoming more powerful, and the Kleb family had much to look forward to. On the wooden high platform next to the martial arts training ground, Sulana and her second daughter, Kalea, stood together, watching Greene's retreating figure. "My daughter, Master Greene is very strong, and his children will be as strong as calves," Sulana remarked. Kalea's hair was the common dark color of the Crabclaw Peninsula. As the daughter of a housekeeper, her long, slightly curly hair was well maintained. Standing nearly 1.6 meters tall, Kalea's dark green eyes turned to her mother. "Mom, but he's an illegitimate child. I want to marry a heroic knight, not be a mistress who bears an illegitimate child," Kalea protested. "Every girl in Westeros dreams of marrying a heroic knight. But, my poor daughter, you don't have enough status. The wealthy knights won't look at you, and the only ones who might be interested are the down-and-out knights or widower knights. Can you adapt to a life of poverty? Are you really willing to serve an old man?" Sulana asked gently. Kalea remained stubbornly silent. "Mom won't harm you. You can't live on love alone. Things will change," Sulana assured her. Kalea turned around angrily. "If my opinion doesn't matter at all, then just strip me naked and throw me into the Lord's bedroom. You." Sulana, usually seen as an informal and smiling person, was now a walking ice sculpture. All of her tenderness was reserved for her most beloved daughter, Kalea. Sulana blinked at her daughter's sulky expression, took a step forward, and rested her soft chin on Kalea's head. "If only it were that simple, your mother would be relieved." Sulana sighed. "Yesterday, I tried to test the waters, but it seemed I was rejected. I feel like Lord Greene doesn't like you." Kalea broke away from Sulana's arms and met her mother's eyes, trying to confirm if she was joking. "I am the most beautiful in our village," Kalea said in disbelief. "Are you serious?" Sulana looked at her daughter's beauty with satisfaction and reached out to touch her cheek. Her milky white skin was soft and delicate. "Your mother is just a housekeeper. She has a place in Kleb's territory, but her status is not noble. If you were ordinary looking, I wouldn't have to worry about this or that," Sulana explained. "As you age, you bloom like a flower. You will be spied on by all kinds of people for various purposes. Sooner or later, your beauty will become your disaster. My own experiences have shown me how cruel this world can be. Among the people I know, the only one who will not treat you harshly and can protect you is Lord Greene." Kalea's eyes reddened, and she hugged Sulana tightly, feeling the familiar scent of her mother. "Mom." Sulana rubbed Kalea's hair and said, "Maybe there are better people out there, but I don't want you to leave, let alone be alone. Are you willing to leave me?" "No, never." Kalea shook her head vigorously in Sulana's arms. I mentioned you to Mr. Greene yesterday, but he didn't say anything at all. So, last night, I tossed and turned and didn't sleep, Solana confessed. Kalea groaned muffledly in Solana's fierce embrace. Greene spent a long afternoon working in the blacksmith shop and carpentry room. After dinner, he discussed the problem of mountain savages with Knight Commander Pell. Finally finishing his work for the day, Greene relaxed in the hot water of the wooden bathtub. Breathing out a comfortable sigh, Greene thought about the most famous spearwoman in the territory whom he planned to meet tomorrow, Amparo. It was said that she was a very powerful hunter with excellent archery skills. Squeak! The sound of the wooden door opening was jarringly loud in the quiet night. The unfamiliar, light footsteps that followed made Greene's heart race. Instinctively, one hand reached for the dagger lying beside the bathtub. Greene's dark brown eyes flickered with alertness. The olive-green dress she wore was made of thin linen with a very low slit neckline. "Excuse me, Lord Greene," a voice interrupted the silence. "I am Kalea, the daughter of Sulana's housekeeper." Chapter 5. He is cute, isn't he? The warm-colored picture stirred Greene's heart for a moment. There were some things that Greene could not immediately adapt to. In Greene's memory, Kalea had been a timid little girl following Serana more than a year ago. He lamented the rapid development of the world. What was Greene thinking about at this moment? In fact, Greene's main concern was that the castle's security measures needed to be strengthened. No matter how vigilant Greene was, or how much he believed in his own abilities, relying solely on personal vigilance to prevent thieves was foolish and would lead to exhaustion. Important personnel and places within the territory needed enhanced security protection. One must always be wary of a dagger suddenly swiping through a fragile neck. When he had enough resources, he planned to buy some Unsullied to act as guards. The Unsullied were reliable. He imagined keeping 2 Unsullied guarding the door at all times, a poor lord's dream. Greene smiled warmly. "Kalea, long time no see. Miss Sulana, have you started arranging things for you? I want to be your maid, but my mother thinks I'm not mature enough. She says I need to train for a while. When she is satisfied, she will arrange for me to be with you," Kalea explained. "But I couldn't wait any longer and found you directly. Please forgive my recklessness." Her reasoning was sound. Sulana had done her duty, and Kalea's seemingly reckless behavior was also a sign of loyalty to the Lord. As trusted family members of the Lord, they would not be blamed. Greene, now fully soaked and dressed in his nightgown with Kalea's help, took the red wine she handed him. He took a sip and naturally frowned. The sour red wine was a specialty of Kleb's territory. He wondered why it was so sour, perhaps a grape variety issue? Good-tasting red wine needed to be imported, but it was too expensive. Upon closer inspection, the taste was actually pretty good. Greene decided not to drink any more and put down the glass. There was yet another reason for Greene to strive for supremacy. A night of silence followed. Greene first arranged for Kalea to follow Maester Al. Maester Al was too old and walked unsteadily, which worried Greene about his life. If the Lord's Maester died, the city would immediately arrange for a new Maester to take his place. However, the city was too far away, resulting in a gap of at least 3 months. In Whispering City, only Maester Al could send messenger crows, including their daily feeding and management. Messenger crows were the most important means of communication, and Greene attached great importance to them. These were all skills that Kalea needed to learn and master. Greene had too many things to do and not enough talent on hand, so literate Kalea was a rare find. Most importantly, Kalea was reliable and could be trusted. The Mason Knight finally returned. According to statistics, there were 13 blacksmiths and 32 carpenters in the territory. Apprentices should be arranged simultaneously, with processes separated so that each apprentice learned only one process at first, ensuring rapid progress. The factory framework was barely adequate. In response to the Lord's call, these craftsmen would move here with their families. Herschel, the chief steward of Whispering City, was responsible for their placement. In the Lord's study room of Whispering City, Lord Greene, Knight Pell, Knight Mason, and Maester Al held a military meeting about the mountain savages. Greene's original plan was to tire out the enemy and use fire attacks to defeat the savages without taking any damage. There were many dry grasslands around, that could be set on fire, and areas close to water sources could also be cultivated. Regarding the details of the war, Greene's main memory was of leading a group of people to kill the stragglers under his mother's command. After listening to their statements, Greene concluded that other places were unknown, and fighting here felt somewhat like a ritual. Whispering Castle sent emissaries to negotiate, and if war was unavoidable, a time and place would be set. At the agreed time and place, the two gangs would clash again. Just a date. Greene tapped the table a few times, drawing everyone's attention. Sir Pell, I will ask Herschel to prepare shields, swords, bows, and arrows for you, as well as 10 clan soldiers. You can recruit 90 more people, mainly experienced hunters. After completion, there will be a total of 100 people under me, Pell confirmed. Yes, you will command the Survey Corps as its first commander, Greene continued. Find more people who are familiar with the terrain. While Mason and I are fighting the mountain savages, I hope you will have infiltrated their territory. I've had enough of the harassment from the savages. This time, I'm going to wipe them out. I need a large number of captives. Territory construction requires a large population. The more captives, the greater the credit. Though more complex than previous war strategies, Knight Pell quickly understood. He solemnly accepted the order. Bachelor Al spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. Master Greene, I have a map. Over the years, I've been paying attention to news about the savages, sorting and recording it. The areas where the savages are active and the location of their lairs are marked. There may be some discrepancies, but it's generally accurate. I hope it can help you. Greene placed his palm against his chest and said solemnly, Thank you for your contribution, Bachelor Al. The Kleb family will never forget your service. King's Landing, Red Keep. Cersei Lannister held a letter in her hand, enjoying the caress from Jaime Lannister. After a long moment, she stood up, grabbed a red robe, and draped it over herself. Even in her 30s, Cersei Lannister remained stunningly beautiful. She picked up a flagon, filled a glass, and took a sip of red wine to soothe her dry throat. Jaime Lannister watched her with a fond smile as she read the letter again. He always had a cheerful demeanor. That guy is a sycophant, Cersei said, her mouth curling into a smile as she habitually raised her pointed chin. James, you don't understand me, but he does, she added, her voice filled with a mix of courage and beauty. I love this opening, Jaime responded helplessly. That kid is not honest at all. Cersei walked up to Jaime, stroked his handsome face, and said with a smile, James, are you jealous of a child? My skirt should really be worn by you. Jaime didn't bother to answer whether he was jealous or not. Are you going to take him with you on this hunt? He's cute, isn't he? Cersei replied with a mischievous glint in her eye. Chapter 6. Steal Money and Men. 20-year-old Emperor stood tall, only half a head shorter than Greene, measuring about 1.75 meters. Her long, light brown hair was tied up casually at the back of her head, giving her a blend of feminine delicacy and heroic appearance. Her slightly dark, wheat-colored skin was a bit rough, but her muscles were smooth and not overly thick. Most women in Kleb's territory farmed and hunted like men, so they were considered well-maintained, much like Emperor. Emperor wore a brown linen robe that exposed her arms. The hem of the robe reached only mid-thigh and was tied with a thick rope around her waist. Her calves were bound with straps, and she wore straw sandals woven from wheat straw. Perhaps sensing Greene's gaze, Emperor flexed and stretched her toes a few times. Being summoned by the Lord in person for the first time was very sudden, and the hunting master Emperor was understandably nervous. Emperor, I heard you hunted a black bear? Greene's voice, though youthful, was calm and showed a maturity beyond his years. Emperor's nervousness seemed to ease a bit. With help from others, I managed to shoot it, she replied. After a brief chat, seeing that Emperor had relaxed, Greene asked, Are you willing to fight for me? Emperor was confused. Are you talking about hunting savages? I've killed many, at least 10. They often come to our hunting area to steal prey. Greene clarified, You are very brave. What I am asking is, do you want to be my clan soldier, like those men in the martial arts training ground? I will provide you with iron armor and a sword. Emperor was momentarily dazed, so Greene continued, At least 2 golden dragons every year, depending on your performance. There will be additional loot rewards. Emparu hurriedly replied, "I do, my lord." Then, as if to make sure she heard correctly, she asked, "But I am a woman, and they are all men. Could it be?" The soldiers of the Kleb family were all men. Emparu was worried about being ostracized by them. As a woman, she wasn't concerned about harassment. She could handle herself. If anyone dared to go too far, she would deal with them decisively. She was strong. Greene affirmed, "It makes sense. The spearwives in the territory sometimes follow my clan's soldiers to fight, but they do not officially participate in the war. They just assist with some simple tasks. This is only temporary, and no one will care. But officially joining is different. Mixing men and women together all day long can cause unnecessary trouble." Emparu nodded, understanding his point. The Lord was very wise. "You are well known among the spearwives. If you were to recruit, how many could you gather?" Greene asked. "Can they all become clan soldiers?" "There are 20 or 30 I know well, and they are all good hunters," Emparu replied. "I want to set up a corps specifically composed of spearwives in the territory, called the Thorn Corps," Greene explained. "There is going to be a war soon. You can recruit as many as you can. Those who dare to fight alongside men, especially those without men, will mainly obey your command. You will be the commander of the Thorn Corps." Greene was very patient, explaining in detail. Emparu listened carefully and understood. Her chest rose and fell as she suppressed her excitement, looking at Greene with sparkling eyes. Greene's tone was serious. "Emparu, can I trust you?" At this time, there were only 3 people in the study: Greene, Emparu, and Bachelor Al. Bachelor Al had been sitting quietly in a corner, as if he were asleep. Emparu stared at the quiet Bachelor Al for a while, her eyes moving left and right. She gritted her teeth, as if she had made up her mind. "Do you want me to prove it now?" Faced with Emparu's strange rhetorical question, Greene raised an eyebrow and nodded calmly. Swish. All the clothes on Emparu's body, Greene's gaze lingered on Emparu, who stood before him with blushing cheeks. Her delicate body reminded him of a fierce female leopard. His pupils dilated and then narrowed as he turned his face to Tuer. He sighed, trying to maintain composure. "Ahem, you have a good figure," he managed to say. Bachelor Al, who had woken up at some point, revealed his sparse teeth in a trembling smile and blinked at Greene. Emparu, suddenly aware of her exposed state, hurriedly covered herself with her hands. "That's not what I meant. Just put your clothes on. Well, I don't blame you. It's an honor for me to appreciate your charm. Today is a happy day," Greene said, trying to ease the tension. After Emparu redressed, her cheeks remained flushed, and she nervously dug her toes into the ground. "Emparu, kneel down. You are my warrior. Kneel on one knee," Greene commanded, shifting the focus back to the task at hand. Emparu complied, and Greene began the oath. "Recite after me. I am Emparu." "I am Emparu," she repeated. "I swear allegiance to those I love and hate those I hate." "I swear allegiance to those I love and hate those I hate," she echoed. "I swear that my words, deeds, and actions will all be guided by the will of Greene Kleb and will never be violated." "I swear that my words, deeds, and actions will all be guided by the will of Greene Kleb and will never be violated. From this day forward, we will rest until death. From this day forward, we will rest until death. I swear in the name of the old and new gods. I swear in the name of the old and new gods." The silky drizzle enveloped the entire whispering city. Outside the city gate, a girl of 16 or 17 years old, wearing an orange short robe and leather armor, carried an old hunting bow. Though not tall, her figure was powerful. Her name was Rhaina, and she had brown skin, silver hair, and a ponytail. Bored, she waited and occasionally glanced inside the city gate. Finally, Emparu appeared, and Rhaina jumped to her feet nimbly. "Hey, female leopard, is Master Greene willing to let you out? How does it feel?" she teased. Emparu walked up to Rhaina and said, "Little Rhaina, are you feeling spring again?" She then revealed a cloak with a dark blue background embroidered with golden swamp marigolds. Rhaina wiped the rain off her face and widened her eyes. "Swamp marigold? Isn't this the emblem of the Kleb family?" "Emparu, you are crazy. You will be hanged. Even if the Lord forgives you, the White Walkers will bite your neck. Please return it quickly. Let's escape. Leave now." "Stop, stop, stop. It's not what you think," Emparu interrupted. "Oh, then." Rhaina raised her eyebrows with an ambiguous expression. "Did the female leopard's enthusiasm make the Lord happy? Is this a reward?" Amparo's cheeks turned dark red. He touched his face with one hand and sighed. "Reyna, stop guessing. Shut your mouth and listen to me." The cloak embroidered with Kleb's emblem was given to Amparo by Greene. In Kleb's territory, wearing this cloak symbolized status. Before this, only Knight Pell and Horseman Mori Knight wore such cloaks. Greene had given it to Amparo to increase her authority in recruiting spearwives and make things easier. It was an early reward, but whether she could keep it depended on her ability. Greene's test had quietly begun. After Amparo finished explaining, Reyna said excitedly, "That's great news. There must be many sisters willing to join. Quick, what are you waiting for? As long as you solve a few thorns, you can summon 100 or 200 people. Haha, grab money and grab men. By the way, commander of the Thorn Corps, I will be the first to sign up." Reyna spoke so quickly that Amparo couldn't get a word in edgewise. But Reyna's good mood was infectious, and Amparo found herself smiling. The two quickened their pace, ready to face the challenges ahead. Chapter 7. Kleb Longbow King's Landing, the Red Keep. Tyrion Lannister, with his brown-blonde curly hair covering his forehead, wore a soft leather coat embroidered with the roaring lion of House Lannister. Standing just over 1 meter tall, his big head and small body, along with his protruding forehead and peculiar gait, made him easily recognizable. "Hey, brother, didn't you notice me? What are you doing? Has our lovely big sister turned you into her personal messenger?" Tyrion teased. Jaime Lannister shrugged and slowed his pace. Tyrion followed closely behind him. "Jaime, you should learn to take the initiative to approach me. My most important role in House Lannister is to stand next to you and highlight your majesty anytime and anywhere," Tyrion said with a smirk. Jaime sighed helplessly. "Okay, you win. I was indeed going to deliver a letter." Tyrion's face lit up with a smile. "Our lonely sister couldn't resist stealing someone at last? Come on, show me." Jaime's lips twitched as he held up the envelope. Unfortunately, it's sealed with wax. Jaime swung the envelope away, avoiding Tyrion's eager hands. "It's not a secret. I can tell you the content." "Oh, it seems I guessed wrong," Tyrion said, feigning disappointment. "Well, don't always make malicious assumptions about Cersei. You are siblings, after all," Jaime admonished. "Aha, should I expect my dear sister to kiss my little face? Unless the 7 gods take a nap," Tyrion retorted. "Tyrion, do not disrespect the 7 gods," Jaime warned. "The 7 gods don't care what I say," Tyrion replied, patting Jaime's thigh. "Tell me about it." "It's a young baron from Crabclaw Peninsula. Cersei plans to take him with her on this Kingswood hunt," Jaime explained. "What unexpected news. Sister seems to be in a good mood," Tyrion mused. "This is an unsolicited letter from the young baron. That boy is a flatterer," Jaime said with a hint of disdain. "Haha, Jaime, you don't seem to like this little baron. Are you afraid he will rob your sister of your brotherly favor?" Tyrion teased. "It's rare for you two to agree. I'm not that petty. Young people should focus more on swordsmanship instead of flattery," Jaime replied. "That's not a good thing, Jaime. As a member of the Kingsguard, I can take the opportunity to teach him a lesson and add to his growth," Tyrion suggested. Tyrion paused and then added, "Brother, the Crabclaw Peninsula is a place where birds don't even poop. You are a Lannister. You will never understand what it is like to be short of money. If you don't have enough to eat, who will be in the mood to practice swordsmanship? The Crabclaw Peninsula has a tradition of direct loyalty to the Queen. This is their ancestral craft." "Brother, this is a good thing. At least the young baron is not stupid. He knows that Lannisters are rich, right?" Jaime said, a bit embarrassed. "You all have a point. I'm just suitable for running errands," Jaime conceded. 3 days later, the sky was clear and blue. In Qingyu City, inside the bow-making room, Greene picked up a longbow about 2 meters long from the wooden stand. He opened it and tested the draw weight, which was about 110 to 120 pounds. In Kleb's territory, most people had to farm and hunt to survive. As a result, many were proficient with bows and arrows. This draw weight could serve as a starter and was easy to adapt to. With systematic training, the long-term plan was to introduce longbows with draw weights of 150 pounds, 180 pounds, and so on in the future. The longbow was modeled after the English longbow from Greene's previous life. It was made with simple craftsmanship and had a long range. "Lord, I can make 3 in a day now," one of the carpenters said. Me too, another chimed in. Me too, echoed a third. The people who answered Greene's question were carpenters. Their original occupation was crafting bows and arrows, and there were about 10 of them. Greene's initial plan was to divide the longbow production process into several parts and establish a simplified assembly line to increase efficiency. However, Greene later retracted his original idea. The first difficulty was the lack of suitable factory managers. Without effective supervision and management, both quality and efficiency would decline simultaneously. The demand for high-quality longbows required skilled craftsmanship, which could not be compromised. The demand for longbows will not increase suddenly in the short term, and the current production speed can meet the requirements. Therefore, I decided to let the craftsmen stick to the traditional method for now. When the craftsmen gather, they can observe each other's production speed, fostering a sense of competition and progress. Greene reminded himself that taking things too far is never beneficial. He had to proceed step by step to avoid any setbacks. Overall, Greene was satisfied. He randomly picked up a few longbows, tested them, and provided some feedback. Greene then announced to everyone that the longbow would be named Kleber's longbow. Knight Pell was well known in the territory and quickly completed his mission. The 100-person Survey Corps has begun basic deployment training. Most of the soldiers in the Survey Corps are from the Orions and bring their own bows, arrows, and short swords. According to Greene's plan, the standard weapons for the Survey Corps are short bows and short swords. Greene envisioned the Survey Corps as mountainous, leather-armored light infantry whose main missions are reconnaissance and surprise attacks. Since the soldiers brought their own weapons, it eased the burden on the Whispering City arsenal. However, Greene noticed that the arrows brought by the Orions were of inconsistent quality, as they were mostly handmade. The arrows lacked sufficient lethality, so the main task of the Whispering City blacksmith shop now is to focus on making excellent arrows. Greene felt overwhelmed by the numerous tasks at hand. Helmets were another issue. There were no extra helmets in the arsenal, and the 200 clan soldiers in Kleber's territory also needed them. Greene thought of the turbans popular among pirates. He decided to cut the gray linen, which was abundant in the warehouse, into towel-sized pieces and tie them around the soldiers' heads as makeshift military caps. This gave the 100 soldiers a somewhat uniform appearance. Survey Corps cohesion. Next was the issue of armor. Greene's long-term goal was to equip all members of the Survey Corps with leather armor over chainmail. However, this goal was currently out of reach. The warehouse in Whispering City had plenty of leather, but most of it was soft leather, with only a small amount of hard leather, which is the main material for making leather armor. To ensure basic protection for every soldier, Greene mobilized all the free people in the city to help make leather armor. Time was tight, so they had to prioritize functionality over aesthetics. They cut the leather, made holes, attached straps, and completed simple leather armor. The Thorn Core and Imparo could not be ignored either. As a lord, Greene had to be fair. However, using the original method, the number of leather armors would not be sufficient. Greene decided to cancel the back armor and only retain the front armor that protects the chest and abdomen. This would allow them to produce about twice as much leather armor, enough to equip the Thorn Core. Doesn't the back need protection? As long as you always face the enemy, there's no need to worry about your back. Greene temporarily added a new family motto, never turn back. Chapter 8, Marigold Ale. Reports from the villagers indicated that the nearby mountain savages had become more active. Greene, who was accustomed to pursuing perfection, initially planned to let the Corps train for a few more days to refine some details. However, the growing unrest among the people in the territory made it clear that he could no longer delay. Any further hesitation might lead the people to mistakenly believe that Greene was timid and afraid of the savages. After leading an inspection of the Thorn Corps' volley training, Greene walked towards the Lord's Meeting Hall of Whispering City, his steps steady and resolute. Whispering City, Lord's Meeting Hall. Greene sat high on the Lord's chair, which bore the swamp marigold emblem of House Kleb. He took the wine glass handed to him by Kalea, frowned, and took a sip of the red wine. Surprisingly, the sour taste was becoming more palatable. In the hall, the retainers of the Kleb family stood on either side. Knight Mason spoke first. "My lord, the negotiations with the savages have been completed. The time will be after sunrise tomorrow." "How many people did they gather?" Greene inquired. Knight Pell, who was in charge of the Survey Corps, replied, "Approximately 1,000. Greene placed the back of his hand on his cheek and sneered. His sarcastic laughter was followed by a moment of silence before everyone began mocking the savages. Contempt for the savages was a strategic necessity, boosting morale invisibly. This custom had long been established in the territory. However, in terms of tactics, Greene would not underestimate his opponents. Greene signaled for silence. "Herschel, are the shields ready?" Butler Herschel responded respectfully, "Yes, my lord." "There are 30 ironclad shields in the warehouse, plus 70 oak shields made in the carpentry workshop, totaling 100 shields. All have been handed over to Sir Mason." Greene handed the wineglass back to Kalea. "Butler Herschel, you did a great job." Herschel bowed. "I will reiterate the battle plan," Greene continued. "The 120 longbowmen of the Thorn Corps each have 2 quivers, with 20 arrows in each quiver. The shooting range of Kleb's longbows is far enough. Everyone has seen it. When the wildlings charge towards us, the first thing they will face is the volley of the Thorn Corps. Mason, in the first stage of the battle, your task is to use the 100 shields and lead the clan soldiers to hold the line and protect the Thorn Corps until all the arrows in the quivers are shot. The completion of the Thorn Corps salvo marks the end of the first phase of the battle. After enduring 4,800 arrows from the Thorn Corps, how much of the mountain savages' courage will remain? Remember to check if they are scared enough to wet themselves." Everyone in the hall laughed. Greene continued. "In the second stage of the battle, the plate armor warriors will lead the front, and all the tribesmen will advance steadily, engaging in hand-to-hand combat to completely defeat the savages. Meanwhile, the Thorn Corps will rest in place, awaiting my orders." After outlining the plan, Greene asked each person in charge to repeat their specific operations. This war meeting was very different from the territory's past habits. As a lord, Greene needed to be patient and communicate repeatedly to ensure that everyone truly understood his intentions. Time was of the essence, and Greene's meticulous planning was crucial. Greene tapped his fingers on his knees, feeling confident that the preparations were sufficient. This was the first official coordinated operation among the various arms in the Kleb territory, and due to the tight schedule, preparations had begun in a hurry. Greene's lunch consisted of roast lamb with onions, vegetable soup, honey bread, and a jug of ale. After taking a sip of the ale, Greene frowned again. The taste was bad and bitter. How had the taste of ale changed? He remembered it being quite good the last time. Greene decided not to drink any more. The lord didn't want to waste it. He reached for the flagon and poured the remaining ale into his cup. Greene smiled gently and said to Kalea, "Today's malt wine is excellent. Herschel has been working very hard recently. Give this pot to him." Herschel, who was wide and stout, was a favorite of the lord. Kalea nodded and faithfully carried out the order. In the hall, Butler Herschel, who was dining with everyone, accepted the wine bottle from Kalea amidst the envious eyes and cheers of the others. Herschel had indeed been working tirelessly these days, running around to fulfill Greene's commands. This gift was the lord's way of acknowledging his efforts. Herschel's fatigue vanished, replaced by a renewed sense of vigor. The ale reminded Greene of Mermaid Harbor during the meal. He thought about alcohol, one of the port's key revenue sources. Relying entirely on imported alcohol could pose problems in the future. It would be best to have a self-produced and self-sold famous wine, like the wine from Qingting Island. Given the resources in Kleiber's territory, developing malt liquor seemed the best choice. Greene had long noticed that, except inside the castle, there was no concept of hygiene anywhere else. He predicted that the changing taste of his ale had a lot to do with hygiene management. Sometimes, Greene was pleased that the lord issued some laws without needing a reason. Otherwise, explaining hygiene issues clearly would be exhausting. For example, health management issues in brewing could be solved through strict regulations, and no one would openly disobey the lord's rules. However, Various problems would arise during implementation, so effective supervision mechanisms must be in place. Thinking of this, Greene felt that the malt wine just given was very good, and Herschel's responsibilities as steward had increased. Malt liquor also needed a loud and elegant name. A good name is half the victory. Mermaid ale? Not relevant enough. Too far-fetched. Swamp Marigold ale? This is okay, as the malt liquor itself is golden in color. We need to remove the swamp to give it character. It's called Marigold ale. After lunch, Greene, who was initially a little sleepy, suddenly became energetic upon receiving a reply from King's Landing. After reading the letter several times, he couldn't help but snap his fingers. According to the letter, in about 2 months, Her Royal Highness the Queen would leave King's Landing for hunting in the Royal Forest, and Greene would be responsible for part of the escort. Greene himself would gather the manpower for the guards in the territory with a quota of 20 people. His goal was to get the opportunity to appear in the Red Keep through Queen Cersei. The Game of Thrones was about to begin, and the Crabclaw Peninsula was too far away. Seeing Greene, who usually had few expressions, so happy, Kalea was unknowingly affected, and her mood improved. "Master Greene, it's rare to see you so happy. Would you like a glass of red wine?" Greene's gaze shifted. "Okay, I'll give you a drink too. Let's have a drink together as a small celebration." Greene raised his glass and gestured to Kalea, then drank it all in one gulp. "Thank you, Lady Cersei," he murmured. Chapter 9. Fire. The next day, early morning, Knight Pell and his survey corps had already set off quietly. Their mission today was not an easy one. Nearly a dozen nearby savage tribes had left in full force, leaving behind mostly the old and weak. The members of the survey corps were the best hunters in Kleb's territory, making it relatively easy for them to defeat these weakened tribes. However, the challenge lay in the fact that these tribes were scattered and could not be gathered together. If they were united, they would form a formidable single tribe. Each of the more than a dozen tribes had its own territory of varying sizes. 3 of these tribes were the largest, each with populations several hundred strong. The combat mission Greene assigned to the Survey Corps was to capture these 3 large tribes, with at least 2 needing to be captured today. Thus, the key to success today was the speed of the Survey Corps. The experienced Knight Pell understood the importance of speed. The route was rugged, making it impossible to ride horses. To avoid hindering the march, he opted not to wear his bright silver plate armor, which he never left behind during war. Instead, he donned the chain armor and a simple version of leather armor invented by Greene. Knight Pell believed in Greene's reasoning. As long as he faced the enemy head-on, there was no need to protect his back. Pell felt that Greene was indirectly praising his bravery, thinking, "The Lord understands me." Knight Pell was ambitious. This was the Lord's first battle after inheriting the Kleb family, and Pell was determined to fight not only well, but also beautifully, to consolidate his position as the most loyal and brave knight in Whispering City. With proper command and timing, he believed that the 3 large tribes could be eliminated today, leaving the smaller tribes too frightened to resist. As dawn broke, Greene, wearing black leather armor embroidered with swamp marigolds, stood on a high place, silently observing the gathering soldiers. The square was noisy with various sounds. Greene soon noticed that the newly established Amparo's Thorn Corps had gathered the fastest. The Thorn troops had completed their assembly, and Amparo was inspecting their equipment. Greene knew that nothing could be accomplished overnight, so he gave Amparo a few brief instructions on training and pre-war precautions that he felt were suitable for immediate use. Amparo executed every step meticulously, demonstrating the talent that Greene most hoped for in his commanders. Greene appreciated Amparo's character and knew he could rely on him more in the future. Lena, with her silver hair braided up, stood out in the crowd. After accompanying Amparo to check the equipment of the Thorn Corps, she looked at Greene in the distance, said a few words to Amparo, and then trotted towards Greene. Greene noticed Rena running towards him, her lively personality evident in her movements. He waved the guards away. Rena stopped a few steps away from Greene and bowed. "I'm sorry to bother you, my lord." Rena had just learned the etiquette from Amparo. She was excited to greet the Lord face-to-face for the first time, feeling that she had finally come forward. Her voice was clear and sweet. "Your name is Reyna, right? You're the deputy of Commander Amparo of the Thorn Corps," Greene said. "Oh, you know my name before I even introduced myself? Lord, you really know everything as rumored. Also, the leather gloves you prepared for us are very useful. I have tried them, and my fingers feel much better after continuous shooting. The sisters are very confident in completing the mission," Reyna replied enthusiastically. "Continuous shooting of 40 arrows. We promise to complete it." The warehouse was stocked with plenty of soft leather. Greene knew that it was very laborious for longbowmen to shoot arrows continuously. After making the new leather armor, he immediately arranged for soft leather gloves for the archers. Reyna kept talking and was jumping up and down with excitement. It was still early, and Greene was very patient with the soldiers who were about to go out with him. He had a gentle smile on his face and did not interrupt, waiting for Reyna to finish. "Well, time is short, and the gloves may be too big or too small for some people. You will all have gloves that are the right size in the future." "It's okay. It's okay, look," Reyna said, stretching out her right hand to show off the gloves that fit her palms perfectly. "I modified them last night. It's very simple. The sisters whose gloves didn't fit all followed me and modified them. Well done. Go back and help Amparo. Remember, we work together as one." "Yes, Lord, we are united." The location for the battle with the mountain barbarians was a relatively flat area about 2 miles east of Qingyu City. At daybreak, Greene led the troops to the location where they would confront the mountain savages. Greene spotted the mountain men gathering a few hundred meters away, a large, dark mass. Knight Mason dismounted and shouted loudly, "Wear armor!" He walked among the moving crowd, occasionally kicking out to get their attention. "Shieldmen, assemble! Assemble! Lazy fellows, get into formation quickly, quickly, quickly! Why panic? Go over there and get out of here. If you don't want your mother-in-law to roll on someone else's bed tonight, just check the equipment again. Yeah, shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to shoulder." Greene was riding on a horse, and next to him was the assembled Thorn Corps. He once again lamented the stalemate-like combat method on the Crab Claw Peninsula. Compared to his memories of the previous life, the way of fighting in the world of ice and fire was very different. If his army was well-disciplined and well-trained, Greene would have already ordered a formation to push through when the opponent was in chaos. As soon as Greene completed his formation, various strange roars suddenly came from the savages on the opposite side. The voices grew louder and louder. The savages, who seemed to Greene to have no formation at all, actually pressed forward step by step towards his square formation. "Position arrow." "Yes, positioning arrow." The savages approached the conspicuous positioning arrow. "Fire!" Chapter 10. The old land will eventually be recovered. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of arrows filled the air as 120 men from the Thorn Corps fired a volley. The continuous barrage was as dense as dark clouds, obscuring the sky and the sun. Puff, puff, puff. The savages who charged forward were repeatedly shot down, their howls echoing across the battlefield. The leaders of the savages, having never encountered such a long-distance arrow assault, roared in fear, urging their men to advance faster. Knight Mason, observing the scene from over 100 meters away, was secretly astonished by the death zone created by the Thorn Corps' salvo. When the continuous shooting reached 20 arrows, Greene noticed a slight decrease in the Thorn Corps' firing speed. Over 200 savages had fallen under the relentless volley, causing chaos among their ranks. Despite the leader's roars, a few savages began to flee. When the volley reached 25 arrows and dozens more savages fell, the remaining savages retreated en masse. Greene decisively ordered the shooting to stop. Knight Mason then commanded the 200 Kleb soldiers, armed with shields, swords, and spears, to advance towards the defeated savages. The Kleb soldiers marched forward with synchronized slogans, their momentum formidable. The average age of Kleb soldiers was over 10 years, each a veteran of countless battles. These elite soldiers had survived over a decade of perennial conflicts with the mountain savages, a legacy that began with Greene's mother. As they advanced, the already terrified savages became even more disoriented. Occasionally, a leader would rally a small group to attack the Kleb soldiers' phalanx, but they were swiftly overwhelmed. To Greene, these savages, waiting to be captured or surrender, were potential future citizens. Judging by their performance today, they indeed deserved the title of savages. Greene realized that managing them in the future would require strict laws. He sighed, knowing he might have to tread carefully, one step at a time. The game of power was about to begin, and military strength was his true trump card. To achieve his goals quickly, Greene decided to transform the Crab territory into a large military camp, encompassing all its residents. He confirmed this development path for his territory and no longer hesitated. The Thorn Corps, established only a few days ago, had managed to complete 25 volleys, an impressive feat. Amparo had proven his ability to lead troops. As the Thorn Corps rested, some spearwives began to, it set off a chain reaction. Greene didn't know how to describe it. Perhaps it was too hot, and they were shirtless? Amidst the white flowers, Greene couldn't help but notice the physical characteristics of the spearwives in Kleb's territory. They were strong and robust. Amparo, standing beside Greene with a serious expression, also noticed the situation. His cheeks turned dark red as he remembered something. Some of the spearwives, noticing Greene's gaze, looked back nonchalantly, even straightening up boldly. In a previous life, Greene might have whistled and given a thumbs up. However, as a lord, he needed to maintain his image, a lesson taught by his original mother. Greene agreed. Giving a thumbs up in Westeros did not signify appreciation. Unknown actions could easily be misunderstood. Men in Kleb territory had to learn to protect themselves when going out. Greene just smiled and looked away naturally. The soldiers didn't understand why they needed to pay attention to image issues, and it wasn't the right time to discuss it. Greene pondered the future, knowing that the path ahead would require careful planning and decisive action. Over time, he got used to it. The Thorn Corps took a brief respite, and under Greene's orders, they joined the clan soldiers in pursuing the retreating savages. Night Pell's Survey Corps successfully captured a tribe. The first battle was a resounding success, with only a few minor injuries and no fatalities. They captured nearly 300 people from the first tribe. The mountain savages survived by hunting and gathering wild fruits, and their spoils mainly consisted of furs and dried meat. The survey team found a small bag of golden dragons in the tribal leader's house, numbering about a dozen to less than 20. The spoils of war were carried by the captives, and Night Pell ordered the tribe's houses to be burned down. Some prisoners who rebelled were killed on the spot. 20 members of the Survey Corps were assigned to escort the prisoners back to the territory. Night Pell instructed the team leader escorting the captives. The captives will be received near the territory. If you get hungry, chew on dried meat without stopping. After handing over the captives, come directly to join me. Pay attention to safety on the road. I will be waiting for you at the second tribe. If the prisoners make any suspicious movements on the road, kill them without hesitation. After giving his instructions, Night Pell patted the squad leader on the shoulder and said, "Go ahead." Night Pell waited until dark and successfully subdued 3 large tribes. The Survey Corps rested at the 3rd tribe and returned to the territory at dawn the next day with the prisoners and trophies. On their way back, they encountered several groups of defeated savages and captured dozens more. In their first battle, the Survey Corps lost 23 men. After 2 days of simple repairs, the soldiers of the Kleb family, in groups of 30 to 50, began to systematically attack the remaining small tribes in various directions. All prisoners were escorted to Kleb's territory, and the houses of the savage tribes were burned down. Knight Mason personally escorted the last group of prisoners back to Whispering City. He saw Butler Herschel standing in front of the warehouse door, smiling broadly. Knight Mason, in a good mood, joked, "Old man, you seem to be in high spirits." Butler Herschel, still smiling, replied, "Good day, Sir Mason. The warehouse is almost overflowing with furs. We haven't been this wealthy in a long time." Knight Mason said with emotion, "Yes, my lord, it seems I was born for war." Before the savages could get close to us, the Thorn Corps' volley defeated them. This is the first time we've had so few casualties. Herschel, I have no doubts and full confidence in the Lord's decision to reclaim the old land of Kleb. Yes, sir, I am also full of confidence. The Kleb family will eventually take back the old land. Sir, go in and get ready. Serana and I have been preparing for the victory banquet tonight for several days. It's very, very sumptuous. You can have a good drink tonight. In the Lord's study in Whispering City, Greene, Bachelor Al, and Kalea had almost finished calculating the harvest of the war. There were more than 2,500 prisoners in total, including nearly 700 old people and children. Of the remaining 1,900 people, 1,200 were women. There were more women than men. To prevent the captives from forming connections, they decided to disperse them, ensuring that everyone was surrounded by people from different tribes. To absorb the population as stably as possible, careful arrangements were necessary. There was no rush. Everything was done for the sake of stability. After completing the dispersion, the captives were sent in batches to various parts of the territory. At the beginning, each corps was required to cooperate with the peace officers for supervision and deterrence. Greene leaned back in his chair, feeling exhausted. Despite his fatigue, he was in a good mood. With the captives taking over the work, Kleb's territory could now allocate most of its strength elsewhere. This meant that Kleb territory could immediately proceed with a second recruitment of troops. For now, Greene's source of happiness was the rapid expansion of his forces. Boomstick makes me happy, he thought with a satisfied grin. Chapter 11. Chaos is the ladder. In the Whispering City banquet hall, long tables were arranged in the center and along the sides. They were laden with grilled meats, fresh fruits, and a variety of drinks. Young maids, dressed in long blue dresses with round necks that reached their knees, bustled back and forth, attending to the guests. Greene, however, was lost in thought. The traditional maid skirts of Whispering Castle were floor-length, which often led to accidents and stirred up dust. Greene, finding this impractical, had the skirts modified to knee-length and paired them with brown mid-calf moccasins. He also added headscarves, thus creating the Kleb maid costume. To avoid any potential ridicule, he attributed the change to the cleverness of a maid named Kalea, rather than taking credit himself. Amid the laughter and clinking of glasses, the atmosphere in the hall grew increasingly lively. Greene sat alone at the Lord's long table, with only Kalea by his side, holding a wine bottle. According to tradition, only the Lord's family or distinguished guests could sit at this table. Kalea, put the wine bottle here. You can join the banquet. Look, your friends are over there, Greene said, smiling as he took the bottle from her. Kalea hesitated, but Greene reassured her. Go ahead, I'll call you if I need anything. Then, I'll go over there for a bit. I'll be back soon. Kalea replied, her face lighting up as she joined her friends. Not long after, a pair of slender hands appeared before Greene, filling his glass. My master, you will spoil Kalea rotten, said Serana, the owner of the hands. Miss Serana, you always appear just when I need you, Greene replied. Thank you for your recognition. If you could reduce my workload, I would appreciate it even more, Serana said with a wry smile. She and Herschel had been overwhelmed with tasks assigned by Greene. Are you encountering a problem? Greene asked. They call themselves witch doctors. Don't witch doctors need to trim their nails? I'm sure they haven't trimmed them since birth. They also have a persistent stench. My appetite has been ruined since yesterday. Several doctors in Whispering City have strong opinions about them. Bringing them together is a disaster. I've even considered using my dagger. Serana confessed. Greene nodded in understanding. It seems the witch doctors have no sense of being prisoners. After a pause, he continued. Serana, we must admit they are unique in treating trauma and using herbal medicine. Kleb's soldiers need more doctors. With more and better doctors and medicine for wounds, we can save many soldiers. Veterans who have fought many battles are our precious assets. You have foresight, my master. I just can't help but want to draw my sword to scare the disobedient ones, Serana admitted. Greene nodded again. Well, as I said, they are prisoners. You have the right idea. Arrange for the soldiers to handle it, whether it's trimming their nails or cleaning them up. First, ensure they understand their place. You'll find it much easier on their erect necks, the Lord advised. Thank you for your help, my lord, Serana replied. She then glanced to the other side and frowned subtly. Kalea held a wine glass delicately in her hands and was happily chatting with the maids her age. Greene followed Serana's gaze and looked at Kalea, her face blushing. Kalea learns everything very quickly. As a mother, you must be proud, Greene remarked. You have a kind heart, Solana responded. Seedlings need to grow, Miss Solana, Greene said with a smile. The only two people in the Thorn Corps eligible to attend the banquet were Amparo and Reyna. It was their first time at a banquet hosted by the Lord, and initially they were very reserved. However, after a few drinks, the lively atmosphere of the banquet loosened them up, and they began talking loudly and drinking heavily. Glancing at Amparo, Solana blinked and said, I heard you are very satisfied with her figure. Greene chuckled. Amparo is an upright warrior. Somewhere in King's Land, in a dark room, Littlefinger Petter Baelish sat. He had gray-green eyes, gray hair, a thin figure, and wore a neatly made dark gray robe, resembling a monk. With an elegant smile on his lips, Petter Baelish raised his head. Baron Greene Kleb, a very unfamiliar name, he mused. Yes, my lord, Her Royal Highness the Queen seems to be very interested in him. I checked. He is 15 years old and a semi-savage noble from the Crabclaw Peninsula, his informant replied. Exemplary, loyal Targaryen. Petter Baelish's smile remained, and his eyes were calm. Don't rely on unconfirmed information. The magic of King's Landing changes every moment, attracting the footsteps of careerists. Sir, please forgive my ignorance. Do you need someone to conduct an in-depth investigation? The informant asked. Petter Baelish shook his head slightly. There is no need for special arrangements. Since our queen is interested, the young man will appear in King's Landing soon. There are no secrets in the Red Keep. Petter Baelish whispered to himself, Chaos is a ladder. 1 month later. Chapter 12, National Longbowmen. A month later, the sky was a clear blue and the sun shone brightly. Outside Whispering City, at the training grounds of the Thorn Corps, Greene stood with a longbow in hand. Under Emperou's astonished gaze, Greene effortlessly drew the bowstring to its full capacity. The longbow he held was a special one, with a draw weight of about 200 pounds. With a sharp twang, the arrow shot from Greene's bow, making a sound that sent shivers down the spine. Reyna's eyes widened in shock, her face frozen in disbelief, her mouth forming a perfect O shape as she stood motionless. For the past month, Greene had dedicated time each day to practicing archery. His original archery skills were already excellent, and since his time travel, his physical fitness had improved significantly. Greene felt that he was getting closer to becoming a marksman capable of hitting targets beyond visual range. The 200-pound longbow was specially crafted by Greene's artisans. He estimated that its effective killing range was about 300 meters. Beyond that distance, the arrow's penetrating power would diminish significantly. After releasing the arrow, Greene felt a sense of relief regarding the dragon that had been a deep-seated worry in his heart. Greene was acutely aware of the terrifying power of a dragon's flames. He certainly didn't want to see the soldiers he had painstakingly trained destroyed by a few bursts of dragonfire. After meticulously studying the Kleb family's genealogy, Greene confirmed that they did not possess Targaryen dragon blood and could not tame dragons. With this realization, Greene knew he had no choice but to become a dragon slayer. As a rational strategist, Greene would seek to avoid direct conflict between his legion and a dragon whenever possible. However, when avoidance was not an option, Greene himself would be the most formidable dragon hunter, aside from the cumbersome dragon-hunting ballista. He could tolerate the existence of dragons, but if they threatened him, he was prepared to destroy them. Greene instructed the carpenter to continue making bows and arrows with even greater draw weights. As long as he could use them effectively, the more powerful the weapon, the more satisfied he would be. The people around applauded and cheered for their lord's impressive archery skills. Greene quietly told the carpenter, "Make another bow with similar power. Reserve the engraved pattern on the thickness in advance. Ensure the strength of the longbow is not compromised after engraving. As for the pattern, it should feature swamp marigolds." From now on, Greene would frequently use longbows with a 200-pound draw weight. Those with greater draw weights would be kept secret and practiced in private. The standard Kleb longbow was too plain in appearance, and Greene needed a more exquisite bow for his trips to King's Landing. The longbow he used would be adorned with intricate carvings, enhancing its appearance without affecting its functionality. Everything Greene used represented the Kleb family's prestige. In a world where noble appearances mattered, catering to these details would make interactions much smoother. Greene was prepared to fight for world hegemony, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and not let his energy be wasted on trivial matters. Rhaena jumped up and exclaimed, "Lord, Lord, you have divine strength." "Oh, according to your training methods, the strength of the sisters has increased significantly, and drawing the bow is becoming easier. Only I haven't made much progress." "Rhaena, you need to be patient. You are still young, so don't be too anxious. Besides, you are a commander now, and your voice carries authority. This is something others don't have, and it will be very helpful for you in commanding the soldiers." Despite her small stature, Rhaena had the loudest voice in the Thorn Corps. In a world where battle commands were often shouted, this ability was a significant advantage for a commander. "Well, Lord, just watch," Rhaena said with determination. "I will work hard and unite as one." Greene smiled and nodded. "I'm watching. We are united." Amparo's voice called out, "Rhaena, line up for training." After Rhaena left, Amparo approached Greene. "Master Greene, do you need a place to rest?" Amparo asked. Greene shook his head. "No, I'll be leaving in a moment." As he spoke, Greene reached out and patted Amparo's left arm. "You've done a good job. You've always been very attentive. Being a trainer is a repetitive and often boring task, but you have to get used to it. Hold on, and they will survive more on the battlefield." "I always remember what you said, Lord Greene. The more you sweat during training, the less you bleed on the battlefield." The Thorns Corps had gained fame in the last battle. Building on their original foundation, they quickly recruited 180 spearwives from the original territory. In addition to the 200 spearwives later absorbed from the mountain savage captives, the current Thorns Corps now boasted a total of 500 soldiers. As the leader of the Corps, Amparo knew that the Lord was preparing to reclaim the old lands of the Kleb family. With the next war approaching, Amparo was very diligent in the training of the Thorns Corps. Immediately after the war, Greene established a regiment composed mainly of men, equipped with longbows as their standard equipment. The full name was Kleb's Longbow Corps, or simply Longbow Corps. Greene selected several soldiers from the Kleb tribe to serve as commanders of the Longbow Corps. After the first recruitment, the number of soldiers was about 100. In the future, the Kleb Longbow Corps would be the unit with the widest range of recruits. As the arsenal produced more longbows, most people in the territory would take up longbow training as a secondary profession, becoming reserve soldiers of the Archer Corps. According to Lord Kleb's new law, citizens of Kleb's territory were required to spend 1 day out of every 10 participating in longbow training. Greene had detailed regulations on the training content and standards. Those who were absent, disobedient, or failed to meet the standards would face corresponding punishments. Greene also planned to hold an archery competition for longbowmen of various levels throughout the territory every 3 months, offering generous prizes to stimulate enthusiasm for longbow training. This was part of Greene's vision for a universally trained longbowman force. After completing the recruitment of the Kleb Longbow Corps, Greene established the Kleb Spear Corps, equipped with 3-meter spears, referred to as the Spear Corps. The Kleb tribe soldiers, loyal and reliable veterans with rich battle experience, were regarded as reserve commanders. Naturally, the commander of Kleb's Spear Corps was personally selected by Greene from among the clan soldiers. After a period of recruitment and equipment replenishment, the Spear Corps had about 200 soldiers. Kleb's territory lacked war horses and could not form a cavalry regiment for the time being. The Spear Corps was established to protect the longbowmen in dense formations during field battles, especially from cavalry assaults. Despite the absence of cavalry, the various arms in Kleb's territory were relatively complete. With daily training and strict discipline, the comprehensive combat power of Kleb's army was steadily increasing. Chapter 13. Never Forget. In the Whispering City, within the Lord's Council Hall, Lord Greene, Knight Pell, Knight Mason, Bachelor Al, Steward Herschel, and Amparo were gathered around a large map of the eastern part of the Crabclaw Peninsula. They were deep in discussion about the eastward plan to reclaim their ancestral lands. The plan was nearly finalized when Greene, after a moment of contemplation, spoke up. Recovering our old land is an expedition, and ensuring military supplies is our top priority. At regular intervals, based on a normal marching speed, we must establish camps fortified with wooden walls. This will be our standard, progressing step by step. He continued, the Kleb family hasn't undertaken a long-distance expedition away from our territory in over 10 years. Our past battles were close to home, making it easy to replenish supplies and treat injured soldiers promptly. But this time, we will be surrounded by enemies. If we fail to secure our military supplies, we may collapse before the battle even begins. As the commander of the Corps, I must always prioritize the protection of our supplies. All commanders of the Kleb family must remember this. Everyone responded solemnly, yes, sir. Greene then addressed Pell. Your survey corps needs to set off in advance to gather information along the route. You must select suitable sites for our camps, considering both terrain and water sources. I will lead the army and set off in 3 days. As Greene stood up, everyone else followed suit. He looked each of them in the eye and declared, to reclaim our old land, we must unite as one. Yes, reclaim the old land, unite as one, they echoed. Reclaim the old land, unite as one. Reclaim the old land, unite as one. After the war meeting concluded, everyone else left the hall, leaving only Butler Herschel to report on other matters within the territory. As Herschel detailed the various affairs, the door to the hall suddenly swung open, revealing Sulana's tall figure. Sulana saluted and said, forgive the interruption, my lord. I thought the meeting was over. Greene's calm eyes shifted to Sulana. Sulana, is there something urgent? Your cousin, Lady Lyanna Crab. Sulana began, but before he could finish, another tall figure appeared at the door. The newcomer, slender and bearing a striking resemblance to Greene, was Lyanna Crab. As Greene stood up, the dusty Lyanna Crab threw herself into his arms, crying with deep grievance. Greene silently comforted her, patting her back gently. After a while, Sulana whispered words of comfort and helped Lyanna to a chair, pouring her a glass of red wine. Greene waited patiently as Lyanna drank the wine in several large sips. Then he spoke softly. Lyanna, tell me why you are so sad. I am here. Tears filled Lyanna's eyes as she replied, Ushour wants to divorce me. Woo woo woo. Ushour Mecca, a businessman from Seagull Town in the valley, had married Lyanna Crab about 4 years ago under the arrangement of Greene's mother. It was unusual for a noble like Lyanna to marry a merchant, but the circumstances were dire. After the Reaver War, John Arryn, the Hand of the King and Duke of the Vale, continued to suppress the Dragon family loyalists on the Crabclaw Peninsula, and the forces in the Vale followed suit. Greene's mother had struggled to maintain the Kleb family under this pressure, persevering for 10 long years. Greene's mother chose a pragmatic compromise and arranged for Lyanna Crab, who had just reached Monarch, to marry a noble from the Vale. The nobles of the Vale looked down upon the semi-savage nobles of the Crabclaw Peninsula, so Greene's mother had no choice but to choose Ushour Makar, a businessman reputed to have good relations with various nobles in Seagull Town. Strictly speaking, this marriage was an insult to the Crab family by the Vale nobles. The blockade imposed by the Vale nobles had suppressed the Crabclaw Peninsula nobles for nearly 10 years, and they had long lost the enthusiasm they once had. After a decade of continuous blockade and suppression, coupled with this humiliation, it was enough to show their loyalty to Lord John Arryn, Hand of the King, and they could finally let go. The Crab family had indeed suffered a blow to their dignity as nobles, but the marriage had eased their relationship with the Vale. The blockade on the Crab family was lifted, and itinerant merchants began to enter their territory, bringing much-needed supplies. The Crab family's leather could also be sold to traders from all over the country at normal prices. Lyanna Crab's marriage sacrifice gave the Crab family some breathing space, but the entire incident had already sown deep hatred. The Crab family was too weak at the time, and no one cared too much. My cousin, why did he divorce you? I later learned that a noble widow from Runestone City fell in love with Ushour. That widow has no children yet. After divorcing me, their legitimate children can inherit the title. Upon hearing the answer, Greene's slender fingers tightened on his knees. Lyanna continued, I was laughed at by the people in the Vale about our marriage. How would I live if I were divorced? Of course, I wouldn't agree to it, and he even attacked me. Then I got really scared, so I sneaked back with my maid while he was out. Woohoo! Greene's eyes narrowed slightly. It seems that the people in the Vale really don't take us seriously. Serana felt very sorry for Lyanna and said angrily, "The damn people of the Vale should have their necks bitten off by the White Walkers." That villain Ushor thought that as long as he divorced Miss Lyanna and married the shameless widow, he would become a member of the Vale nobility. The Crab family does not dare to retaliate and can only swallow their anger. Lyanna nodded sadly. Yes, that's what the damn guy thought. Greene rubbed his brows and looked directly at Lyanna. Cousin Lyanna, everyone in Whispering City has never forgotten your contribution, and you are my family. Your room has remained the same since you got married. There are people cleaning it regularly, as if you have never left this home. As a lord, Greene expressed his stance. Suddenly, Lyanna's eyes filled with enthusiasm. Greene, Lyanna had been very uneasy all the ways. Greene was only 11 years old when she got married, shy and thin. Greene's mother had passed away, and Greene, whose memory was much blurred, inherited the territory and became the lord. Lyanna did not dare to optimistically imagine Greene's attitude towards her after hearing what happened to her. She felt that she had lost the face of her family and had no face to face Greene, but in the end, she found that she had no other place to go except Whispering City. Only thinking about Whispering City, which outsiders derided as the barbarian countryside, could bring Lyanna a sense of security. So Lyanna came regardless. The cousin she hadn't seen for 4 years had grown up, and his calm demeanor was reassuring. Greene reached out and gently held Lyanna's slender and cold hand. "Lyanna, this will always be your home. I want to ask you, will giving you Ushor's head make you feel better?" Chapter 14. The Rainy Season in Castelme. Lyanna's pupils dilated as she stared into Greene's calm eyes for a moment before shifting her gaze to Serana. Serana, understanding Lyanna's worries, nodded with a gentle smile. Herschel also stood up and reassured her. "Miss Lyanna, don't worry too much. The master will ensure that the unfair treatment you received is avenged. Anyone who has hurt you will pay the price." Lyanna finally responded, "Greene, thank you. I have never hated someone so much. It can't be wrong. I insisted on not divorcing Wu Shor, and I could feel his intent to kill me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run away in such a hurry. If possible, please get rid of him." Still worried, Lyanna added, "If we kill him, will it bring trouble to the family? The nobles in the valley have always been hostile to us." Greene gently patted the back of Lyanna's hand, sat back in his chair, and said, "If we do nothing, they will laugh at the Kleb family for being cowardly. Everyone knows that as a noble family, the Kleb family will definitely seek revenge." Greene sneered and continued, "Some might think that the Kleb family would at most complain to the Red Castle. The weak Kleb family, not favored by the king, might be seen as the last attempt of the Red Castle to appease the nobles. Because of some sensitive emotions, it makes sense for Wu Shor to compensate with some golden dragons. Aren't we considered semi-barbarian nobles? This just proves their point. The young lady of the family was wronged, and when we get angry, we might go over and kill the family. This is indeed very barbaric." Lyanna couldn't help but exclaim, "Will the impact be too big? Except for the maid I brought, there is no one I care about there. But, will the old thief John cause us trouble?" "It will depend on what our noble queen decides to do," Greene replied. On the surface, to sum up the incident, a noble lady married a businessman and suffered humiliation after the marriage. The noble lady's family was angry and took revenge on the businessman's family. The revenge method might be excessive, but it is understandable. After all, the honor of the nobles in Westeros is inviolable. From Cersei's perspective, Greene's revenge might seem gentle compared to her father Tywin Lannister's The Rains of Castamere. Greene occasionally causes small troubles, and Queen Cersei will feel more at ease with the Kleb family seeking refuge. Greene had already planned that the people sent to take action would not reveal the identity of the Kleb family, nor leave any obvious evidence. Anyone who knew the inside story would understand that this was revenge from the Kleb family. As long as no obvious evidence was left behind, Queen Cersei could easily suppress any accountability from those interested in the Red Keep, maintaining her fairness as a queen. King Robert could ignore it for the time being, as such trivial matters would not disturb his indulgences. His primary concern would be avoiding a smashed head from a flagon. Back in his study, Greene tapped his fingers on the table, frowning slightly. According to the customs of Westeros, such secret revenge, although fierce, might still be ridiculed. The Kleb family might be seen as too cowardly for not showing their flag, which could harm their honor. The rules of the game in Westeros were sometimes very nerve-wracking for Greene. After a while, his brows relaxed as he decided to imitate Tywin Lannister. Greene personally selected a group of soldiers from the Kleb clan and arranged for several people with beautiful singing voices to accompany them. Greene, who had... After finishing lunch with Lyanna, Greene was still very busy. After discussing with stewards Herschel and Serana, they arranged for Serana's eldest son, Leighton, to take a group of people and set off for King's Landing. Leighton, the reserve butler, was tasked with purchasing a manor outside King's Landing. Butler Herschel had inquired with traveling merchants in advance about the price of manors outside King's Landing, which generally ranged from 80 to 200 gold dragons. Despite his heartache, Lord Greene allocated 300 gold dragons to Leighton. The core of Greene's order was to locate the manor as close to King's Landing as possible, with the largest area they could afford. The limited number of gold dragons meant that Leighton would face considerable pressure. The future Kleb Manor outside King's Landing was being prepared for Greenton troops. Greene, having never left his territory, was unsure how many guards a manor outside King's Landing could typically have without offending the sensitive nerves of the Red Keep. According to Greene's idea, within the tolerance limit of the Red Keep, the more troops stationed in the manor, the better. This would greatly improve Greene's sense of security in King's Landing. Mermaid Harbor was sunny and bright. Greene was riding a horse, leading his guards as they surveyed the area. Thanks to the participation of more than 200 free prisoners of war, the first phase of Mermaid Harbor had been basically completed and already possessed the basic functions of a port. The first phase, construction, aimed to allow Mermaid Harbor to start operating in a short time. The main building materials were wood, serving as transitional structures. The second phase, planned to last for half a year, would use stone as the main material. Various shops from the first phase would be replicated on the other side. Once completed, these new structures would directly replace the functions of the first phase buildings. Next came Phase 3, which had two main tasks and was planned on an annual basis. The first task was to continue expanding and improving Mermaid Harbor by adding new buildings to the port according to specific needs. The second task was to beautify the completed buildings from the outside to the inside, mainly through exquisite carvings. Greene attached great importance to the defense strength of Mermaid Harbor and did not want to see it destroyed by a few waves of pirates. A strong defense force could attract more visitors to Mermaid Harbor. The garrison temporarily responsible for guarding Mermaid Harbor consisted of more than 100 people, mainly villagers from the former fishing village. 2 veterans selected from the Kleb tribe soldiers were responsible for training and command. Greene also paid attention to health management issues. He did not want the charming Mermaid Harbor to stink everywhere, so there were already dedicated people supervising the public health management of the harbor. Standing on the beach and looking at the boundless blue sea, Greene had no intention of admiring the view. Kleb's long-range ballista had not yet been produced, and Mermaid Harbor did not yet have shore-based long-range defense weapons to guard against attacks from the sea. Currently, Mermaid Harbor was guarded on the sea by several small fishing boats converted from the original fishing village. Fighting in the open sea was definitely not possible. A few small fishing boats could capsize in slightly larger winds and waves, and they dared not go out in bad weather. Greene's territory did not have the technology to build large warships capable of long ocean voyages. Buying such ships from outside would start at 1,000 gold dragons, a price that directly repelled the poor Lord Greene. Greene had no choice but to give up his dream of becoming a shipping king for the time being. He decided to go to sea first and pay to board a merchant's ship honestly and orderly. Chapter 15. The Power of the King. During this eastward march, almost all the soldiers from Kleb's territory were mobilized. The forces included 100 Kleb tribe soldiers, 400 Thorn Regiment soldiers, 100 Kleb Longbow Regiment soldiers, and 200 Kleb Spear Regiment soldiers, totaling 800 soldiers. Additionally, there were 300 auxiliary soldiers responsible for military supplies, bringing the total to 1,100 people. For the Kleb territory, such a large-scale expedition had not occurred for a long time, and it was evident that everyone was agitated. Only Greene remained very calm, having seen much of the world. To Greene, this scale was merely a skirmish between villages. On the fourth day of the march, they had their first encounter after heading eastward. After a month of continuous training, Kleb's longbowmen had become more proficient. Several rounds of volleys directly repelled an attack by about 500 mountain savages. As dusk approached, a few veteran clan soldiers finally broke down, exhausted from the continuous marches. Despite winning the battle, there was no wine, no camp girls, and the prisoners were off limits. It wasn't that they were disloyal to their lord, it was just that too many habits had changed suddenly. Negative emotions such as unhappiness, dissatisfaction, and depression, coupled with their own bad tempers, finally erupted. The noisy soldiers did not understand that such behavior could cause chaos in the camp. Military orders are like mountains. Greene understood the principle of not being lenient with soldiers. To quickly change the bad habits that affected combat, the discipline requirements for soldiers would only become stricter. Noticing the commotion outside, Greene walked out of the camp with a riding whip and quickly mounted his horse. On the way, he grabbed a soldier's spear and, without hesitation, threw it towards the clan soldier who was shouting the loudest. With a hiss, the spear penetrated the soldier's chest and exited through his back. The force of the spear sent the man flying several meters before the spear, still carrying the man, was deeply embedded into the ground. The tail of the spear continued to quiver. The soldiers gathered nearby felt their breath catch and suddenly fell silent. The only sound left was the slow and rhythmic clopping of horse hooves. Greene slightly shook the reins, and the horse shook its head, walking slowly among the crowd with a chirp sound. Greene's unwavering eyes swept over the crowd, and the pressure he exuded was like a mountain bearing down on them. The soldiers couldn't help but tremble and knelt on the ground one by one before Greene. Greene's voice was much louder than usual. "I told you no noise in the camp. Look at me. Look at your lord. If you dare to disobey the laws I issued, it will be an offense to the Lord. There is only one result for offending the Lord: death." The citizens of Kleb territory, located in the relatively isolated Crab Claw Peninsula, were indeed backward in civilization. It was hard for them to understand why Greene wanted to change what he defined as bad habits. They might even be confused if he explained it too much. If they didn't understand, there was no need to explain it hard. They could only learn through their bodies that the Lord's order could not be disobeyed. I repeat, Kleb soldiers, as long as they are at war, there will be no wine or women. In wartime, only obey orders. After winning the war, I will reward you greatly, reward you for your bravery, and reward you for obeying the laws. Farmland, houses, food, and wine. Greene pointed his riding crop at the soldiers closest to him and said, "You, stand up and answer." The accused soldiers stood up tremblingly. "Answer me. Do you understand? Can you abide by the law?" Several soldiers responded, "Yes, I can do it, and I promise." Greene pointed to another group and asked the same question. "Speak louder. Didn't I tell you to have a full stomach? Shout to me and obey the Lord's orders." "Obey the Lord's orders," they shouted in Nisan. "Obey the Lord's orders. Obey the Lord's orders. Obey the Lord's orders. Obey the Lord's orders." The soldiers' shouts grew more uniform, their voices rising in a powerful crescendo. Greene, who had been indifferent, finally allowed a smile to break his expressionless face. John Greene ordered the soldiers to add meat to their dinner. The soldiers, who had just declared their loyalty to the Lord with all their might, cheered again, ignoring the pain in their throats. As Kleb's soldiers advanced, the mountain savage tribes realized that Kleb's forces were not something a single tribe could withstand. In haste, several large tribes formed a coalition. A coalition of more than 3,000 mountain tribes gathered across the mountain opposite. The Kleb Spear Corps formed a three-tier defensive formation in an orderly manner, their movements synchronized with precise slogans. The Kleb soldiers were divided into two groups of 50, each positioned on either side of the Spear Regiment's formation. Behind the defensive formation stood the Thorn Corps and Kleb's Longbow Corps, totaling 500 men. The horns of the savages sounded, signaling the charge. Each Kleb longbowman carried 40 arrows. As the more than 3,000 mountain savages launched their attack, they entered the effective range of the longbows at 200 yards and faced a barrage of 20,000 arrows. In Whispering City, 2 monks of the 7 gods who had volunteered to accompany the army watched the battlefield, their hearts filled with shock. "This is no longer a war between equals," one monk said. "Indeed, if Kleb's archers numbered 10,000, they would be unstoppable," the other replied. After more than 10 years of silence, this family is rising under the young lord's leadership. Without external intervention, the entire Crabclaw Peninsula will fall into his hands sooner or later. Have you decided to intervene? If so, I will contact the High Master of King's Landing immediately. Perhaps we can even reach out to Lord John, the Hand of the King. He may take a keen interest in this place. But I must say, the Crabclaw Peninsula is ancestral land. They never trust outsiders. The old sacred trees here have deep roots. The young lord is more inclined to support us. He needs stable rule after the war and hopes for the illumination of the 7 gods. Does he have conditions? Yes. He wants the power to appoint and remove the territorial bishop. This is a power usually reserved for the king. The offer is indeed tempting. With the young lord's support, the entire Crabclaw Peninsula could embrace the 7 gods. This would be a monumental achievement, a new chapter in our religion's history. It is an offer too hard to refuse. Chapter 16. Terror Cave Castle. Under the dense rain of arrows from Kleb's longbowmen, the savage coalition forces didn't even reach the phalanx of Kleb's spearmen before they began to retreat. The mountain breeze was cold and stung the skin. The air was thick with the smell of blood, and wails of pain echoed everywhere. The killing continued. One of Kleb's tribesmen caught up with a fleeing mountain savage. Gripping his sword tightly, he thrust it into the savage's armpit with a sickening thud. The blade pierced the savage's ribs and plunged into his heart. When the tribesman pulled out the sword, warm blood spurted out. The Mason Knights bravely rushed to the front line. One knight easily dodged a spear thrust from a mountain savage, seized the spear's shaft with one hand, and swiftly decapitated the savage with a single blow. Kleb's longbowmen, divided into groups of 20 to 30, coordinated their attacks. The pursuit of the savages turned into a one-sided massacre. After the battle, a heavy rain began to pour. In Greene's tent, the atmosphere was unusually relaxed as he communicated with his commanders. The mood was harmonious. Suddenly, Knight Pell, drenched from the rain, hurriedly entered the tent. Pell, usually calm, now had a trace of anxiety on his face. Pell stood before Greene and bowed. "Good day, my lord." Greene's eyes narrowed slightly. "Loyal Knight Pell, you have been working hard. Is there an urgent military situation?" Greene's calm voice soothed Pell's anxious mood. "Yes, sir. Terror Cave Castle has suddenly taken action. They have allied with a savage tribe, and there are at least 10,000 of them. This is a declaration of war." Greene took the letter of challenge from Pell and glanced at it with a mocking tone. "Oh, the Bren family of Terror Cave Castle? The Kleb family has disturbed the tranquility of the Crabclaw Peninsula?" The Crabclaw Peninsula, part of the royal territory, was indeed a lawless place. Nobles could fight whenever they wanted if there was a conflict of interest. No one remembered the Red Castle's laws, which stated that nobles of the royal territory could not attack each other without the Red Castle's order. Greene stood up and walked to a table covered with a large map. Everyone gathered around, and the atmosphere became tense. Greene pointed to a spot on the map. "Here, Crescent Valley. We'll crush them here." Crescent Valley was about 20 miles northeast of Greene's current camp. The valley's entrance and exit were about 100 meters wide, with steep sides and a spacious interior shaped like a crescent moon. The people of the Crab Claw Peninsula, known for their cultural achievements, had named it Crescent Valley. Greene then pointed to a flat area some distance from the valley's entrance. Pell, send a reply to the Bren family. Kleb will take up the challenge. We'll decide the outcome here. According to Pell's information, the location Greene chose was relatively fair for both parties. Greene wasn't worried they would refuse. There were other places with similar terrain nearby. If Terror Cave Castle rejected all of Greene's choices, he would simply fortify the camp and prepare for a defensive battle. With 10,000 enemies and less than 1,000 Kleb warriors, the news wouldn't tarnish the family's honor. Kleb took the initiative to arrange a field trip, choosing a location that fully respected the traditions of the Crabclaw Peninsula. As Greene had predicted, once the location was confirmed, the coalition forces of Terror Cave Castle and the Savages readily agreed. The chosen site for the decisive battle was reasonable and in line with the traditions of the Crabclaw Peninsula, so no one suspected any foul play. Although they mocked Greene's youthful arrogance and overestimation of his abilities, they still admired his courage to fight, which was very characteristic of the Crabclaw Peninsula. 3 days later, at the appointed time, Greene arrived at the battle location with Amparo, his clan soldiers, auxiliary soldiers, and Kleb soldiers disguised as rendered prisoners. Amidst the dark, savage formation, the flag displaying the emblem of the Brun family of Dreadhole Castle stood out conspicuously. Greene observed that under the banner of the Brun family, there were about 200 soldiers forming a neat square formation, a stark contrast to the surrounding savages. The Brun family had about 50 pieces of armor and 20 horses, indicating they were wealthier than the Kleb family. On Kleb's side, Greene and Amparo rode war horses, accompanied by several of Greene's guards. The poor Lord Greene looked at the phalanx of the Brun family and sighed inwardly. The armor and war horses needed for the trip to King's Landing were almost sufficient, eliminating the need for additional expenses and saving a lot of golden dragons. Indeed, force was more effective than hard work. Greene suddenly realized that the Ironborn probably understood this motto in a similar situation to his. Amparo, having finished his observation, remarked, "Lord Greene, they have about 50 horses in total. It's a pity that Rhaina doesn't know how to ride and shoot. If we had one more person, it would be easier to take them down." Greene, seemingly in a good mood, smiled and said, "I will dispatch 2 mounted guards to follow you. Remember to keep a safe distance. Our first target is the charging cavalry." No one knew what was going on in Greene's mind, and no one would think that his mood had suddenly improved because of the Brun family's equipment. Most would assume that the battle-savvy lord was simply excited about the upcoming fight. Amparo responded solemnly, "I understand, sir. Please don't worry." Greene reached out and patted Amparo's arm. "Well, I have always believed in you. It's time for you to have a pair of plate armor." Amparo, who usually thought in a straightforward manner, immediately understood the meaning of Greene's words. Together, they focused their attention on the Brun family's phalanx. Valley, Seagull Town. Chapter 17. Listening to the Whispers of the Crypt. In the valley of Seagull Town, night was about to fall. In the largest square near the port, a bonfire was lit earlier than usual. Many singers had gathered, singing a song with an unfamiliar melody. The scale of the chorus was unprecedented, and the rippling singing almost encompassed the entire port area. More and more people were drawn to the music, curious about the song's origin. It turned out that the song was called "Listen to the Whispers of the Crypt," and it was said to come from the Crabclaw Peninsula across the southern strait. As the night deepened, the crowd began to disperse, but the singing still seemed to linger in their ears. Suddenly, bursts of exclamations broke out from the crowd. In a place facing the west of Seagull Town, a raging fire shot into the sky, turning half of the sky red. The next day, everyone in Seagull Town knew that the manor of businessman Usual Mecca had caught fire, and no one in the entire manor survived. Crabclaw Peninsula, Kleb's old battlefield. "Ho! Ho! Ho!" The savages shouted in unison as they advanced slowly towards Greene's phalanx under the command of the Brun family of Terror Cave Castle. When they were 300 yards away, Greene raised his bow and nocked an arrow. With a hiss, a knight fell off his horse. Amparo urged his horse to move back and forth in front of the formation, shouting, "Steady! Steady! Wait for the order!" Greene shot a second arrow, and another knight fell to the ground, disrupting the advancing formation. After Greene shot 5 knights in a row, the enemy knights dismounted and led their horses into the formation. At this point, the two sides were more than 200 yards apart. After Greene shot down the flag-bearer holding the Bren family flag, he nodded slightly towards Amparo. "Retreat!" Amparo ordered, and all the soldiers, led by the Klebo soldiers, turned around and began to retreat towards the entrance of the Crescent Valley. The changes on Greene's side immediately attracted the enemy's attention, and they accelerated their advance. Everything was being executed according to Greene's plan. Greene was about to urge his horse to join the escape team when a small accident occurred. A figure as round as a meatball suddenly joined the battlefield. Holding a buckler and a warhammer high, he launched a running charge towards the Bren family and the savage army. The enemy, realizing that Greene and the others were trying to escape, became chaotic in their formation. The charging meatball quickly collided with some of the fastest enemies. His plump body knocked 2 people away with the shield, and the warhammer smashed the head of a nearby savage. Contrary to his fat body, the meatball was very agile. His shield blocked all attacks, and his warhammer easily smashed heads one after another. The meatball seemed to have beast-like intuition. After killing several people in a row, he sensed something was wrong. During the battle, he looked in Greene's direction. "Where are the people? Why is there only 1 knight left? Why do I remember a large group of people here? Am I wrong?" The meatball finally panicked. No matter how brave he was, he couldn't kill them all. He began to retreat consciously. Greene temporarily determined that the strange man who had suddenly entered the battlefield was a friend rather than an enemy. Greene urged his horse to run forward, firing rapidly while moving. The savages near the fierce man were shot down one after another. Greene focused on a knight speeding towards the stranger. He shot the knight off his horse and shouted loudly, "Mount!" The fierce meatball, now realizing the situation, quickly mounted the fallen knight's horse. Together, they retreated towards the safety of the Crescent Valley, leaving the chaotic battlefield behind. The man heard Greene's voice and knocked away the enemy with his shield. He ran to the ownerless horse and with some effort jumped onto it despite his bulky frame. Greene continued to provide cover with continuous shots. The fierce man edged the war horse forward, approaching Greene, and said in a naive voice, "Lord Greene, your reputation is far and wide. I am so admired. I forgot the words. I heard about the recruitment order from Kleb's old land. I hope to serve you, but I am an illegitimate child and dared not meet you directly. I have heard about the battlefield here and wanted to prove myself first to gain your appreciation. Is this an opportunity for an opposition general to take refuge?" Greene urged his horse to retreat and shouted loudly, "Stranger, please tell me your name." "Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Menton Waishui." As the horse ran, Menton Waishui's belly, like a big watermelon, trembled up and down, flowing like water. The corners of Greene's lips raised slightly. "Welcome, my warrior." Hearing Greene's affirmative answer, Menton Waishui's honest voice actually had a hint of crying. "You are so kind. I sincerely thank you. I swear to fight for you forever." I forgot the words again. I will try to eat as little as possible." "My warriors, eat as much as you want," Greene replied. Menton Waishui turned to look at Greene's profile and was stunned. He came back to his senses, raised his head slightly, and a naive smile appeared under his firm eyes. "The weather is so good today." Lord Greene's most adorable general, Menton Waishui, appears. Finding more and more weapons and equipment discarded by Kleb's soldiers on the ground, the Greene family and the savages entered the Crescent Valley one after another, shouting and cursing. When all the enemies had entered the Crescent Valley, they encountered fierce fires that suddenly broke out in front and behind. Surrounded by ruthless flames, screams and wails seemed to echo throughout the Crescent Valley. Although Greene had tried his best to prepare, the time was not enough, and the heavy rain in the previous days had still affected the fire. More than 3,000 people remained in the Crescent Valley forever. The remaining enemies finally rushed out of the valley, but they had lost all their strength. and most of them became Greene's prisoners. 5 days later, near the Terror Cave fort. "Go ahead." Greene, who was on his war horse, looked at the Terror Cave castle in the distance, which seemed to tower into the clouds, and was speechless for a long time. Chapter 18. The Semi-Military Style Farm. Bernard Brune of the Dreadden was a squire to Lord Alan Stokeworth, who served as Hand of the King to Aegon I. During the Battle of Ruby Banks in the Reaver War, Houses Crab and Brune of the Crabclaw Peninsula fought side by side for Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. They were model loyalists of the Julong family and their confidants. The new Baratheon dynasty, however, was a different story. Miserable, the worst of the worst. Perched on a towering cliff, more than 40 meters high, the thick city gate of Terror Cave Fort was tightly closed. Greene decisively abandoned his plan to attack and occupy it. Capturing a well-defended castle through conventional siege methods would be too costly. The road to hegemony cannot avoid siege warfare, but without a dragon, Greene needed to prepare more unconventional siege methods. Currently, he was unprepared for the siege of Terror Cave Castle. If an opportunity arose, he would seize it. If not, he would decisively give up. Greene comforted himself with the thought that they were all poor lords. Why should the poor embarrass the poor? When someone dares to challenge you, you should resolutely respond with iron and blood. When they kneel down and surrender, you must help them up with your own hands. Otherwise, no one will be willing to submit. With these words replaying in his mind, Greene said to Knight Mason, "Mason, I'll leave it to you next. The ransom for the captives of the Brune family will be in accordance with past rules. Considering they fought alongside Targaryen, let them go this time with a warning that there will be no next time." Mason nodded. Greene then quietly ordered Knight Pell, "Leave the captives to Amparo for escort. Your survey corps will stay and continue to attack the savage tribes, especially those with good relations with the Brune family. Just like last time, destroy the tribe's garrison and relocate the population. The old land of Kleb will need a lot of farmers." The semi-military style farm planned by Greene would be implemented by Mason Knight in the newly recovered Kleb land. Over time, Kleb's semi-military farmstead would spread over all the arable land in the eastern region of the Crabclaw Peninsula. "As you command, my lord," Pell responded. Greene nodded and continued, "The savage tribe near Kleb's old land has been defeated by us. The main combat force will not be fierce. However, I still ask you to treat every battle with caution. Recruit the hunters into the survey corps while attacking the savages. This is a rare opportunity to train soldiers." Pell replied, "My lord, I will obey your orders. The Brune family." Greene shook the reins and moved his horse to the other side. Knight Pell urged his horse to follow. Riding side by side, Greene said, "Pell, you always make me feel relaxed when communicating with you. Yes, although we lost this time, the Brune family will not surrender to me. For a period of time, there will be no power that can threaten Kleb in the old land, so we can digest the results of the victory. At the same time, except for the 20 horses I selected to take back, I will allocate all the remaining horses to you. The survey corps needs speed even more." Greene turned his head and glanced at the Dread Cave Castle again. "Kleb can't stop. We need to keep looting to support the population of the new and old territories. We are expanding too fast, and the farmland cannot supply too many people. The only nobles in the eastern Crabclaw Peninsula who can cause us trouble are the Brune family, which I cannot tolerate. It is enough for the master of the eastern Crabclaw Peninsula to have one Kleb. Mason will stay and be responsible for the development of the old land. I will order him to cooperate with your conquest. Start with the savage tribes that have good relations with the Brune family and conquer them one by one. I want you to blockade the Brune family and make them submit. It was difficult for them to move until it surrendered or disappeared." A smile appeared on Greene's lips as he patted Pell on the shoulder. "I'm about to leave for King's Landing. I'm helpless and can only rely on you. Fortunately, you are here. Your loyalty and ability have always been the most reassuring to me." "Knight Pell, for the glory of Kleb," Pell said solemnly, placing his palm on his chest and nodding in salute. "My sword will always serve you." Menton Weishai was carrying a large buckler on his back, a war hammer on his waist, and was chewing on a smoked sausage. Rhaena, standing beside him, said helplessly, "Pangmeng, aren't you full? Why do you keep eating?" Mengtan Weishui replied naively, I'm scared of hunger. I used to never have enough to eat, but things are much better now. Since I followed the master, I haven't been hungry anymore." Rhaena rolled her eyes at Mengtan. "You've never eaten enough, and yet you're still so fat!" Mengtan Weishui scratched the back of his head. "Hey!" Rhaena's eyes gleamed slyly. "Mengpang, if you keep eating like this, if you eat too much, be careful. You might be punished by the Lord." Mengtan opened his eyes wide, which seemed to lack the light of wisdom. I know I have a big appetite. How about I take the initiative to go to the Lord to take the blame?" Rhaena snorted at first, and then couldn't help but hold her belly and laugh, which left Menton even more confused. Fortunately, Greene's voice came over in time. "Mengtan, Rhaena is joking with you." Greene approached and patted Rhaena on the head. "He will take it seriously." Rhaena cried out in pain and squatted down with her head in her hands. Greene looked at his palm calmly. Mengtan suddenly complained loudly, "Sir, Rhaena is not in pain. She is pretending. I saw it. She snickered just now. I saw it." Mengtan Weishui had a beast-like intuition. On the first day he joined Greene's camp, he felt that military regulations were closely related to his future. For Mengtan Weishui, Greene was the first person who did not dislike his large appetite and the first person who would no longer let him starve. Mengtan Weishui kept chewing the food in his mouth and worked hard to memorize the rules by rote with his not-so-smart mind. Just now, he was frightened by the cunning Rhaena for a moment, but Mengtan Weishui finally realized that eating too much was not against military regulations, so he naturally wanted to retaliate. Mengtan Weishui jumped on his feet and exposed it mercilessly, his big belly heaving with waves of flesh. How come this guy has become smarter? Rhaena thought miserably. "Lord Greene, I beg for forgiveness. Mengtan scratched his head. It seemed like he was taking too much revenge. Greene waved his hand helplessly. "Go and get Mengtan some more food. He will forgive you immediately." King's Landing, a corridor in the Red Keep. Tyrion Lannister sat on the marble guardrail beside the corridor, his short legs swaying. He was holding a wine glass that seemed to never leave his hand, and his face was red from drinking. "Brother, think of something pleasant. You worry too much. Sometimes I suspect that your love for my sister is not normal." Jaime Lannister still looked uneasily in the direction of Cersei's room, sighed deeply, and sat on the railing too, with anger still remaining on his handsome face. "King Robert, he has forgotten what honor is. I can't remember how many times he's been rough on Cersei." Tyrion moved closer to Jaime, reached out and patted Jaime's arm. "You have to understand why I stopped you. If you get involved, the result will only be worse." Jaime rubbed his face helplessly with his hands. "Tyrion, you are always smart and sensible." Tyrion's eyes were deep, and his tone was rare and serious. "I always think that I am the naughty Duke Tywin, but in fact, I am far behind. If nothing else, my father has always been as ruthless and cruel as a big glacier. Calm down, while Cersei's emotions are like wildfire," Jaime mused, his voice tinged with a mix of admiration and sorrow. "Our king and queen are like two blazing fires, and their flames only grow fiercer when they come together." He sighed deeply, the weight of his emotions evident in his eyes. "I just want Cersei to be happy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Chapter 19. The Appearance of a Famous General. Tyrion laughed and said, "Ha ha, brother, you have such extravagant hopes. How can a Lannister hope for ridiculous happiness? What we want in life is unlimited power." His tone shifted, dripping with sarcasm. Jaime shrugged bitterly. The two Lannister brothers fell silent, lost in their thoughts. After a while, Queen Cersei's maid approached, bowed, and said, "Sir Jaime, Her Royal Highness the Queen requests your presence." Tyrion interjected, "Didn't my sister, who is weak at the moment, call for her favorite brother as well?" "Well, your expression tells me that I did not receive the invitation." He jumped down from the guardrail, straightened his clothes, and took a step forward. "When my sister sees me now, her mood will only worsen. Let's go. I hope my sister can be happy." With that, Tyrion turned his back to Jaime, raised his right hand in a dismissive wave, and walked away. Jaime watched his brother's retreating figure, feeling Tyrion's loneliness. He knew in his heart that Tyrion had a kind soul. Cersei had never hidden her dislike for Tyrion, but he never truly hated her in return. On the contrary, Tyrion had always longed for familial affection. Every time Cersei was in trouble, Tyrion's small figure would always be nearby, where she couldn't see him, but never too close. Jaime liked his younger brother very much, but his beloved Cersei had hated Tyrion since childhood. Jaime had tried hard to bridge the gap, but failed. Now, he only hoped that the relationship between Cersei and Tyrion would not worsen for his sake. Red Keep, Queen's bedroom. Cersei, sitting in front of the dressing table, seemed unconcerned about the scars on her face being seen by others. She raised her chin slightly and smiled, but her tone was cold. "Jaime, I want you to kill Robert." Jaime was startled and pressed Cersei's weak shoulders with both hands. "Cersei, I understand your anger, but we can't be impulsive. Robert is the king, and I am the Kingsguard, and—" Cersei pushed Jaime away angrily, as if she had heard something particularly ridiculous. "Jaime the Kingslayer, are you telling me about the duties of the Kingsguard?" When Jaime heard the words Kingslayer, his palms clenched slightly, and an angry look flashed across his face. He suppressed his anger and spoke in a low voice. "Cersei, you can't be impulsive. Robert is not that easy to kill. If we are not careful, it will bring disaster to the Lannisters. Father will not let us go." Mentioning their father, Tywin Lannister, actually calmed Cersei down for a moment. The memory of the old lion's intimidating gaze resurfaced in her mind, making her feel as if she couldn't even breathe. Ever since she became queen, she thought that fear had dissipated, but now she realized it was still profoundly and terrifyingly clear. Jaime walked behind Cersei and hugged her gently. Though still angry, Cersei didn't want Jaime touching her. She tried to break free a few times, but when she couldn't, she let him hold her. Jaime felt Cersei's warmth and was willing to tolerate everything about her. Cersei's beautiful eyes trembled slightly, but her thoughts drifted to Baron Greene Kleb in the Crabclaw Peninsula. She felt it was time to wield a sword of her own, one that was truly hers and not subject to the Lannisters or anyone else. According to the information provided by Maester Pycelle, this young baron was very skilled in combat and had defeated 20,000 men with only 1,000. A sword sharp enough. Whispering City, Lord's study room. Greene took a sip of the sour red wine he missed a bit. He frowned. It still didn't taste good. Back in Whispering City, Greene seemed to be in a good mood. "So, Maester Al, did you tell the city that we defeated 20,000 men in one battle with 1,000? Maester Al grinned, revealing the few remaining teeth. "I originally wanted to write about defeating 30,000, but I was worried about scaring the old guys." Greene smiled warmly. "Dear Bachelor Al, I sincerely thank you for your continued support." Bachel, or Al, stood up, trembling slightly, and nodded to Greene. "Lord Baron, you are right. Learning to show one's strength is an important strategy. Since you wish to enter the Red Keep, you are joining the game of power. Remaining silent and nameless not only invites contempt but also a silent death. I just want to inform the influential figures through Maester City that Lord Randall Tarley is not the only one who can fight. Your kind heart worries that Maester City may hold me accountable in the future and affect my reputation, but I am already very old. I just want to do my part for you while I can still move. My loyalty will always be to you and Maester City." Bachelor Al blinked. "You have shown strong military capabilities, and I don't have to worry. You may have to climb into the beds of ladies for the sake of our territory." Greene smiled at him. Whispering City, blacksmith workshop. Menton stretched out his arms and belly, allowing the craftsman to measure his size. After taking the measurements, the blacksmith said respectfully, "Mr. Menton has a very strong physique. He needs about 2.5 plate armors." Herschel asked, "How long does it take to make a full suit of plate armor?" "Master Manager, if we have enough manpower, it can be completed in 2 months." Butler Herschel pondered for a moment, then placed his hands on his belly, which was much smaller than Menton's. "Master Greene will set off in a week at the latest, and Menton will accompany him. The plate armor, build a suit for Menton first, a pair of breastplates, and at the same time, arrange for someone to dismantle the ready-made chainmail armor and transform it into a size suitable for Menton. I'll give you 5 days. Chapter 20. The Power Given by Blood. The team for the Green-Red Fort trip consisted of 50 clan soldiers, 50 sets of plate armor, 30 shields, 50 swords, 20 spears, 30 longbows, 30 horses, 3 doctors, 3 grooms, 1 barber, and 3 maids. The attendant in charge was Serana Butler. The total cost for the merchant ship to Red Castle was 52 gold dragons. Steward Herschel had arranged to pay the merchant with furs of equal value, sparing Greene from having to part with the gold directly, which was a small comfort. Greene sighed, wishing he had the strength to prepare his own ocean-going ship. Mermaid Port, which now saw 1 to 2 merchant ships docking daily, was finally beginning to look like a proper port, unlike its earlier days of desolation. Greene had done all he could. The rest would have to develop over time. My lord, Steward Herschel, has inquired with several merchants and determined that the unit price for purchasing Unsullied in Astapor is 100 gold dragons. This price does not include transportation costs. The Unsullied? Greene recalled instructing butler Herschel to inquire about their price with his merchant contacts. However, Greene's initial enthusiasm for the Unsullied had waned. After the war, Kleb's integration of the mountain savages had gone smoother than expected. Greene was very satisfied with the mountain savages he had acquired at no cost. They were fierce and strong, capable of becoming warriors with just a weapon. With proper food and clothing, their loyalty was particularly high. With further training and discipline, they would become formidable soldiers. The unit price was 100 gold dragons, making the total cost for 10 Unsullied 1,000 gold dragons. For 100 Unsullied, it would be 10,000 gold dragons. In the future, the Dragon Mother would conquer 8,000 Unsullied with a single move, equivalent to 800,000 gold dragons. She had acquired the treasuries of several major cities in the Free City state with little effort. Greene couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. The Kleb family had shed blood for the Long family and remained loyal. After the Reaver War, the Kleb family had not enjoyed a single good day, being suppressed by the Red Keep for over a decade. Greene thought he might plan to defraud the Dragon Mother of some gold dragons to soothe his wounded heart. Yes, I understand, Serana. How is Lyanna doing? After the news came from Seagull Town, Miss Lyanna locked herself in her room for an entire day. Since then, she has been in good spirits. She seems to feel at ease here and trusts you very much. Keep an eye on her. I'm not as attentive as you. Also, pay attention to her emotional well-being. Serana's eyes trembled slightly as he lowered his chin. My lord, I will arrange everything and report to you promptly. Hearing Serana's response, Greene raised his eyebrows and turned his gaze from the sea to Serana. Serana, thank you for understanding my efforts. In the Kleb family, it's just cousin Lyanna and me. Lyanna is too kind-hearted. It's a virtue worth admiring, but it can also be easily exploited by those with bad intentions, especially regarding emotional matters. Greene's eyes returned to the vast sea as he sighed softly. You have watched Lyanna grow up. I know you have always cared for her, so don't worry too much. As a lord, I have responsibilities I must bear, but I will do my best to keep Lyanna safe and happy. Serana raised her head and pursed her lips. Actually, you should have Miss Lyanna sign a document relinquishing her inheritance rights to the Kleb family. This would offer her greater protection. I had intended to advise you on this matter. Later, I worried that you might still be without descendants, so I hesitated again. People say I am too rational, but I know myself well. I hesitate often. Greene moved his thumb against his index finger. Miss Serana, in my heart, you are like family. In front of me, you can always speak freely and leave the decision to me. You should not be troubled by this. As for cousin Lyanna's inheritance, I would rather she find her own love. Understood, my master. King's Landing, Red Keep, Hands Tower. Petter Baelish leaned on the balcony railing, his eyes staring deeply into the distance. Count Sheepshit, a semi-savage nobleman, is often ridiculed, but ha! After the usual notification from the Bachelor's Tower, the reputation of Baron Greene Kleb spread quickly during the long-lasting peace of Westeros. As a new hot topic, a lot of information about Greene gathered on Petter's desk. Thanks to the blessings of their ancestors, when the Kleb family reappeared in their old land with great strength, even after more than 10 years, they easily regained their power, as if it was what the people wanted. It's truly enviable, the deep-rooted dominance brought by blood. It's really disgusting. It represents the bloodline of power. The traditional power of respecting blood is so stubborn that even uncivilized savages are deeply affected. Compared with noble blood, ability has become secondary, so only chaos is the latter. Petyr Baelish's gaze deepened. Lord Petyr, it's strange. I sense some kind of anger from you. Varys, bald and rotund, wearing a loose brown-red silk robe, clasped his hands together. Petyr calmly withdrew his gaze and turned his gray-green eyes towards him. Varys smiled reservedly and nodded in greeting. Petyr Baelish raised the corners of his lips elegantly. Master of Whispers, are you always full of curiosity because of your responsibilities? But I must tell you, your nose is malfunctioning this time. Varys's smile did not diminish. Lord Petyr, since I have known you, I have always read calm elegance and outstanding wisdom from you. Even the smallest changes in you attract my attention. The graceful Petyr admitted to himself that he had grown to dislike the 8-clawed spider. He warned himself to act cautiously and always remember that the little birds are watching him. No matter what he thought in his heart, Petyr Baelish maintained a decent smile. You are indeed the sweetest tongue in King's Landing. Every conversation with you is a delight. Varys nodded again. It's Lord Petyr's demeanor that exudes sweetness. I merely reflect your glory. Petyr spread his hands, uninterested in continuing the discussion about tongues with Varys. His gray-green eyes shifted quietly as he changed the topic. Our noble queen, I heard she was suddenly in a happy mood. Normally, she would be unhappy for many days. Varys moved to Petyr's side and also looked into the distance. Her Royal Highness the Queen retains a pure girl's heart. When she gets something she likes, she naturally forgets her sadness. Peter's voice was hoarse and full of magnetism. Something she likes? Lord Varys, there is something in your words. I almost forgot. This book has been signed. Please vote for it. Thank you.